hear individuals who have been in before as well. With that being said, my name is Elder. Welcome to the Open Debate. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for being here in the chat. Hello, Riki. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Yeah, so if anybody if anybody was paying attention and was just watching the vote on the Emergency Act here, well, it passed 185 yes, 151 no. What does that mean for Canada? What are we going to see in the future? Do you think that this vote should have passed? Were you on the yes side? Were you on the no side? I'd love to hear from you and get a perspective of what the Canadian people are feeling this evening, what they're thinking. This sounds like something that you have anything to say about. Feel free to hit the request to join button. It should be at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And we will get started with a good conversation. But yeah, I hope everyone's had a good day. And it'll be really interesting to see where this goes and where it leads. The question is, do you think that it should have passed? Are these measures justified? Yeah. That's the question. Were you following the debates throughout the last 2 days? What do you have to say? Simple laws were not enough. Trudeau can now round up these anarchists. Well, the question is, once again, what is he fighting? Everybody left Ottawa. There doesn't seem to be much of a resistance to the enforcement that was put in place already. So what was the need to put in place the Emergency Measures Act? If you'd like to come on and give your opinion, you can feel free to hit the co-host button and give us your perspective. Love to hear from anybody, no matter what they feel, no matter how they're thinking out there. Just want to know what's going on in the minds of Canadian citizens this evening. So we will keep going, and if you'd like to join, hit the request to join button, and I'll let you in here real quick. A lot of people are eager to type out their opinions on social media. Not many people have the ability to vocalize those opinions and put them together into a sentence. Doesn't even need to be fluid. But yeah, love to hear what you have to say, how you feel about what's going on, what you think this means for Canada. If you believe that it's a good idea, if you do not believe so, and why. As you can see, the individuals who voted on the act themselves were very split, as it passed 185 yes, 151 no. So, how do you feel? If you'd like to tell us your opinion, feel free to come on and let us know what's going on inside of your mind. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and letting us know what you feel, how you feel in the chat. That is always welcome as well. Welcomed as well. I appreciate everybody being here. So far, I see a lot of people saying that they're worried, that they're frightened for what this means for the future of the Canadian citizens, although this is a temporary, quote-unquote, temporary act that has been passed. We will see what it means for the precedent that has been set around how easily these bills can be passed, or these acts can be passed. I see someone saying a little tyranny is okay. I don't know if people like that are trolls or not, because there's often little substance that comes with those types of claims. So if you would like to come on into the chat and let us know what you're thinking, how you feel, what you think this means for the future of Canada, I'd love to hear from you, no matter what your opinion. So, it's a strange day. I think everybody has mixed emotions. And, yeah, we'd have a good conversation, one way or the other. right? We need to learn how to be able to come together and have a good conversation, and also figure out where we stand on things. Where do we feel our lines are? How do we come together as a people and find a common ground? And is there a common ground? What is it? It's the questions we have today for the individuals out there in TikTok land. I see a lot of people doing debates lately that the whole debate atmosphere on TikTok is interesting. A lot of inflammatory, outlandish statements, a lot of inciting emotions in individuals. It's a troll game. A lot of trolls, not a lot of substance, not a lot of real discussions. And when real discussions start to be had, they often shut them down. What a weird world we live in. What a crazy little atmosphere. See, like this person, cry racist tears to a black guy. Like, is that a troll? What do you mean? By your definitions, well, I don't know who you are. I can't put you into a category. But it's an interesting situation, nonetheless. We will see how things unfold throughout the rest of the evening. And once again, if you'd like to pop in, you can hit the co-host button down below, request to join, and I will pop you into the stream. You can tell us how you feel, what you're thinking, and yeah, if you had a, what do you feel with that? All tongue-tied tonight. Would you have voted for this act to have been passed? Would it have been a yes? Would it have been a no? Why or why not? I'd love to know what you are thinking. We got some no's, we got some yeses, but the question is why? What makes you come to those conclusions? You'd like to come on and tell us what you're thinking? That's what it's all about. That's why it's the open debate. It's because it's an open platform for individuals with different thoughts to come and express them. Just what are the people thinking that make up the Canadian public? It doesn't just have to be the Canadian public. Who knows where you're from? If you're American, you're Norwegian, you're African. No, Africa is a continent, I guess. Maybe from South Africa. Who cares where you're from? I'd love to know what you'd like, what you'd love to say. Yes, unfortunately, if the way TikTok works is if you do not have enough followers, they won't let you go live or join lives. Not 100% sure what that's from. Perhaps trolls. I don't know, something else. But yeah, it does suck. Soon you will be able to join. Everybody keep looking for that. So he came back with cry babies this time, so that didn't seem so crazy and hypocritical. But I don't know. See, yeah, I guess some people are upset and triggered by what is happening. Some people are critically looking at what's going on. Soon, many people will be able to join. There are a lot of new individuals, I believe, that have been joining TikTok throughout the past few weeks that from a different demographic than were previously on TikTok. There's a larger debate community coming around. Vote live or anything?
I watched the vote live on CPAC.
Deliver those yays and nays.
It was kind of gut wrenching, actually. How do you feel about it?
Um, it was interesting to see, and I don't know. I'm not surprised by what happened. We know the way that the government's set up and the way that it works, and the individuals in our parliament that the way that they vote on a regular basis, and who had been claiming the way that they vote were going to vote. So I think that we kind of had heads up around the way things were going to play out. Um, a few interesting speeches from individuals that I wouldn't have expected to say the things that they did during the debates. It was good to see that not everybody is always towing the party line. Um, but it's an interesting situation. We'll have to see where things go from here and what the world response is, what the general response is from Canadian citizens, and what they choose to how they choose to enact these given powers.
Well, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like this is something that we should have? Do you feel that we are in the predicament enough to have this passed?
Oh no, not at all. Doesn't even make sense, in my opinion.
I agree. Where in Canada are you from?
I'm from Ontario.
Okay, so you're like right there. I'm from Alberta. So Jason Kenney made a statement that he's actually going to try and fight it. So hopefully he'll follow through. We know how politicians are, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You cannot trust them. Bring somebody else in here to join us. Hey there, single
Hi.
mom. Thanks for joining us on the open debate. How you doing tonight?
Uh, Hearing the bad news about this being passed tonight, I'm worried. I am. I'm terrified to know what's going to happen in this 30 days. I'm. I. I don't know why he had the grounds to do this. You know, he had no grounds. There's no reason for this. The only reason I can think that is he just wants to be in control. He has to have so much control over everything, and there's no reason for it.
It's an absolute power grab.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
It. I live in Calgary, and the saddest part is like, what's gonna happen? Like, what is gonna happen now? People are going to have their bank account shut down. People are going to have things taken away from them. Like, this is a sad day for Canada. This is a very sad day that nobody's ever gonna forget. And I have two young kids, and my kids have to deal with this too. And it's sad. You know,
Yeah, I
my
agree.
freedom got
I agree.
my freedom
This
is
is
like been taken. You know,
I don't know about in Ontario, but here in Alberta, they're actually if you even have a flag on your vehicle, they will
yeah,
pull you over, make you take them off, and ticket you. You
yeah,
can't even be proud to be Canadian anymore.
no. Like, I'm scared to even wear my hoodie that says Canada on it because I don't want to get a ticket. I can't afford that. Like, that's the issue. It's like so many rules, and like it's because the truckers wanted to speak out and have an opinion about a situation that's happening for 2 years, and they got out of there, and now we have to have 30 days of this guy who has to control us. Like, it's not fair. Like, I feel bad for you because you are stuck in the situation more than us because you live somewhere that's going to have more control. You have to basically show the cops where your address is to get into where you live. Like, that's sad.
Well, from what I've seen, those videos are from like strictly the downtown core of Ottawa, where the protests were set up. And what makes it interesting is that that's only about 5 blocks. It's not even the entire downtown core like area. It's just where like the protest was set up. And I guess they've been restricting all access from going in those areas, which now is inadvertently actually shutting down the businesses that are in those
Yeah,
areas, but which is
like,
strange to me.
it's going to come down to it. Like, Trudeau got scared. I think that he got scared of what was being done, and now I don't know who backed this. Like I want a list of who said yes and no to this, because like
I don't think it shouldn't even have gone to debate. There was no
No.
grounds of it.
there was no grounds.
The grounds weren't there.
Bring in one more person in.
Yep.
Maybe their opinion will be different. We'll see. Hey there, Potent. Thanks for joining us on the Open Debate. How you doing tonight?
Hey, good evening. Honestly, I'm with the two ladies below me. I'm devastated at this vote. Um, However, I haven't lost all hope, but the future is looking bleak, for lack of better word.
I agree.
It's I woke up today knowing it was gonna pass. The way the parliament has been, the tone that they've taken over the last few days, and the NDP's wishy-washy position, it just
They knew
wasn't.
yesterday. They knew yesterday what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah, it didn't give me any confidence that this was going to be any better. I don't have any faith in Senate. I don't have any faith in our parliament. I don't have any faith in our government. I'm at a loss for words of where to go from here. As I've been following this protest, it's like, you wonder and question how it gained so much momentum throughout the nation. And at the foundation of it, I feel like it was about mandates, stopping the mandates. It's been impacting people's lives in so many ways that have gone unspoken, and like nobody's been listened to. So at least that's for me why I resonated with it, especially as a Black person.
Here,
Yeah.
I'll hang on, ladies. I'm gonna back out to see if maybe you can give room for somebody else. Maybe you can get somebody else with some other point of views here, and we can hear their thoughts too. So I'll
Okay.
back out. So that opens up a spot for other people.
Okay, and if you want to come back in later on in the conversation, feel free to pop back in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I know a lot of the people around me have been frustrated with the mandates. We've done everything in our power as citizens to express disagreement with this. We filed grievances with our unions, we've called our MPs, we contacted the premier, we spoke to the labor board, and it doesn't seem like anything was put out to address our concerns or that we were listened to. And I think that's most people's message here. um I don't agree with like the racism or anything else, the hate speech going on in downtown Ottawa. I don't think that was okay, but just to see how divided we are as a nation, and like how okay people are with having this level of control over our lives, is disturbing. It makes me fearful. And
I'm
yeah.
scared that this is gonna give him more power than anything. And the issue with me is like people can't even get jobs right now because they don't want to get vaccinated because it's against their rights. But now we're being forced to do something because of this mandate now, because of the Emergency Act. Like, he's going to have so much control over everything. Like, this is my worry.
I just want to address someone in the comments. Obvious. Okay, they said it's not a mixed issue. Essentially, that the majority of people are not on our side. But as you can see, this act passed 185 to 151.
Yeah.
That's our government is divided, and the people of Canada are divided who elected these officials for our government. The
Yeah.
people are truly divided, whether you want to believe it or not. It's not everybody's on your side or everybody's on my side. People do not agree.
No. And, like, the hardest part is how long does he have power? 30 days. He has 30 days. And he's probably going to ask for it to be redone. So he can keep having power.
I'm gonna bring Harry in here. Thanks for joining us, Harry. How you doing tonight?
Hey, how's it going, man? Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just wondered yeah.
Oh, me? Oh, okay. The 30 days he has power, and then he can re-ask for it to be back. He can renew it in 30 days. But if you don't know, but China's the only other country than us that has this. it's going.
Yeah. And
That's
strange
scary.
that they didn't actually, enact the same shots, because y'all were Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson Johnson. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, strange that China rejected all of those. So they demanded, seemingly China demanded you take something they wanted to see was going to work,
Yeah.
and it didn't. So China chose to take something else, and also now the UN is landing on your airports and
Yeah.
freezing your money.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Like
Okay.
this is
Um,
the. Sorry.
our
go
bank
on.
accounts are, yeah, so our bank accounts can potentially be seized for suspecting of being a supporter of this convoy.
Yeah.
And the finance or the prime deputy prime minister pretty much said that the only way for your bank account to get unfrozen or for you not to worry about being frozen is if you express that you don't support this convoy.
Okay.
Um,
Well, that's
so
the most Romanesque thing I've ever seen or heard before in my entire life. And what's sad is we've been seeing it come. Like, it's been a tidal wave from the start. Like, anyone who's been watching saw it happen with Hong Kong all the way down the line. And I mean, okay, let's throw that name out of there, where we're at. We've seen where it's going. The tidal wave has risen, and it's falling on every nation that cannot stand up for itself, because what I've seen in every video are officers that are armed against unarmed citizens.
Yeah.
So when you're seeing armed officers, especially armed officers that aren't badged and they don't have cameras, then
Yeah.
that's bad. And I saw the same thing with BLM. When the BLM was going on, what's weird is the media allowed for they blew off the burning and everything that was going on at the time. But you know what else they blew off? The fact that the officers didn't have any name tags or
Yeah.
any actual, like, they were it was a give and take. And it's sad because tyranny has taken over now. Like, you're seeing tyranny trample people in the streets.
Yeah.
The only way to actually combat that is us coming together to show that we're strong. Now, should we come together and destroy everything? No, because it would take forever to build everything back again.
Yeah.
To me, it would be showing that we can come together for some reason, for something. How do we do that? How do we come together?
Yeah.
In your
She
opinion?
dropped out there.
Huh. I would say the trucker movement. I would say this trucker movement is actually something that we should be doing, because something with money has seen that we need to do something together.
They both
Like,
dropped.
we would have never. Go ahead.
I just brought in Ian. Thank you for joining us on the Open Debate. How you doing tonight?
No problem.
Hey, how's
no.
it going?
You,
No,
you
it's just us in here.
I'm sorry, I kind of almost threw up in my mouth there a little bit. You're actually telling me that the trucker movement is the catalyst of uniting our country?
I'm saying right now, your country and our countries are being so lied to by media that we need a catalyst that can do it. And unless you have a better one, I'm open. I mean, I would love, because I'm a paramedic right now that's currently having trouble finding work during a supposed pandemic, and our media is lying to us. So we need a catalyst. Do you have one?
Yeah, we just had an election. Let me tell you what would have happened
An
tonight
election.
if we had had a non-confidence vote. The trucks would be on their way to Wellington Street right now. I mean, they're massed outside of Ottawa and Hull, and they're coming back. My position has always been a truck doesn't protest, a person protests. They should. What's going to happen? I just got back from Saudi Arabia, and there are checkpoints there, guys with machine guns, and
Yes.
That's what you're gonna turn Ottawa into, is a
It's already
freaking
turned.
war
It's already.
zone, and they're not going to let trucks down unless you have business to do down in the downtown area.
Excuse me, but they're already telling you have to put something in your body that you don't want to put in your body. So I don't know what your war zone is, but
Well,
everyone's personal war zone is something different. I'm sorry, but hold on. My personal war zone is the fact that I've done CPR on a Pfizer line. So when you're coming at me with a shot, I see it as a bullet. The problem is you don't understand the individual understanding of what the hell's going on. We have years of people dying, years of people with psychosis, years of people with bad things happening, and paramedics like me going, hey, bad shot, don't do it. And now people are going, hey, freedom protests are bad. No, we need freedom protests. We need people going, hey, these shots are bad because the DOD is coming out with actual education now. We need good data given to good people so they can distribute it so we can save lives.
But here, you got to wake up and realize you're a very small minority in this country now. 90% of Canadians have gotten at least one of the shots.
Yeah. I'm in America. So the cool thing is you're talking about a small minority. You've got America talking about you right now.
Okay.
So you can small minority all you want, but I'm in Oklahoma, USA, and if you've got me going, damn, I've been in 2 branches of the military talking about your division right now, then trust me, your small minority has raised some hacks. Those hacks are people like me. And hey, guess what? I'll do the best that I can to be a good person and not be mean to y'all, but you need to be nice to the people there that want democracy.
We don't want to be nice.
Because we like democracy. We like democracy.
Listen,
I love democracy.
Listen, you love democracy. You had 900,000 people die in your country from COVID.
Still love democracy. I mean, do you hate democracy? Are you saying that that's bad?
You flick that off as it's like nothing. We've had
no, it's not nothing.
People.
It's not nothing. It's just, do you still like democracy? Like, it's land of the free, home of the brave, not land of the shit. I'm scared. Let's stay in. It's not land of the. It's not land of the people. I just need to show your papers. Like, we're supposed to be free and brave, and you're like, hey, let's be scared of a disease.
We had an election. Trudeau won the election, and he is the prime minister. He made a.
Doesn't mean he gets to run people down the street.
You guys are
doesn't
still
mean
denying. Half of your country is still denying that Biden won the election. You're still in the media is to blame. In the media,
I don't like Biden whatsoever, but I'm thankful he's not running. I'm thankful he's not running people down in the streets on horseback. And if he was, I would be really pissed off. And I'm pissed off enough the fact that happened in your country that I'm talking about it in Oklahoma, USA. And they didn't have cameras on, they didn't have badges on, and there was even media afterwards trying to tell us that it didn't even happen. What sucks is the fact that people don't want to give good news, and the ones that do want to give good news are scared off by the ones that are trying to scare them off. Don't be scared. Just stand up for democracy. Stand up for reality.
All right. Yeah. Let's hear how Ian feels more so about everything that's going on and why he feels that way.
So first of all, I know you don't like Biden, but 81 million people voted for him, and he's the president of the United States. A lot of people don't like Trudeau, but he is not a dictator. He's not a fascist, and he's not Hitler. Like we see the sore losers.
But he's in the pocket of Carl Schwab, and Carl Schwab said so. Go ahead.
I have a 0% chance of getting run over by a horse because I don't go to these stupid protests. I have a 0% chance of getting stomped on by police with a badge or without a camera or whatever because I'm not going to these stupid protests. Apparently Canada is under some kind of a martial law right now. I don't even care. My coffee still tastes the same. I have no limitations to my freedoms. I go to restaurants, I go to the gym, I go to the show, I go to my job, I wear a mask, I have the freedom. I got in a plane. I went to Saudi Arabia, see my daughter in a British international school for 3 weeks, and I came back to a free country Canada is absolutely free. Unfortunately,
you've complied though. You've complied with everything that you've gotten all your shots. You wear your mask. You do everything that you're told, and you're saying that because you're saying that because these situations do not affect you and don't apply to you, that you shouldn't worry about the minority individuals that they do apply to, and you should not care about them. Is from what I've heard you say there.
We had to put in some restrictions. I didn't like the restrictions. I had to wear a mask on a plane for 20 hours from Saudi Arabia to Amsterdam, 4-hour layover to. I don't like that either. I don't like having my gym closed down. I love going to work out. But the fact is, we were all in that position. We're probably moving towards the mandates, but I don't know if you heard the the conditions, the memorandum of understanding that
I
they
read the
wanted.
entire thing, and many people are very misinformed by the media, just throwing out blatant lies about what was happening in that. But regardless of that, we can go back to that in a second. But I just want to get down to like the key demographics of what you were trying to say here and what you were saying before, because from what I'm gathering, because things are not affecting you directly, you should not need to worry about other people's discomfort or their plight. But with that same sense, I think that the main objective or the main change that in or like the main differentiation, the main difference people have is that it's how much control are you willing to let the government have over your citizenship, over your own personal autonomy. You started this off by saying, I just went to Saudi Arabia and there were checkpoints with the government, with the military, with the guns, and then related that to turning Ottawa into a militarized state because of what? What constitutes that in your opinion? Do these protests,
Yeah,
I'm not even going to frame them as peaceful, but have these protests warranted a militarized response, the same as you saw in Saudi Arabia from the Canadian government on the Canadian citizens?
no, I mean, and the fact is, in Saudi Arabia, you cannot, you dare not criticize the government.
Exactly.
If
So
you
why would you? like no. That's what I'm asking you.
no,
Why would you be against Canadian citizens exercising their right to freely, peacefully protest when you just came
you
from a
come,
country that clearly showed you what happens when you take
I
away that right from the citizens?
I actually have protested in Ottawa as well. I'm a social worker. I'm an ally to all of the to total freedom and equality under the law, and I would fight as well for something that I believed in. But this is, like I said, trucks don't protest. People do.
No, but
If
we're
the
talking
truckers,
about we're talking about fighting for the right to protest. It's not the fact that you believe in their cause. It's the
oh
fact that
sure,
you just came from a country that showed you what happens when you
you don't
take that right away from citizens, right?
you don't
And
have the
right.
yeah, but I'm saying you don't have the right to shut down a city, and you don't have the right to shut down
Oh,
the economy,
the
and you
problem
don't have
you
the
have
right.
right now, the problem you have with what you're saying is trucks don't protest. Whenever you're saying you have to put something in your body or you can't drive that truck, then your truck is freaking protesting. Whenever you can't, when you're saying you're not allowed to drive it anymore, unless you do what I say
No,
experimentally or whatever, then you're putting their house on the line. Their truck is their house. What you're not understanding about truckers, because I've lived with them, love them, good human beings, great individuals. You know what? Their truck is their home. That's where they live. That is their house. And when you're saying you're going to invade their house, that's like breaking their door open and telling them, because my science says so, I will break your door open. And
but
that's
the
what
fact,
you're not understanding is my science, no matter how good my personal science is, someone could come to me and say, this is the best science in the world. And you know what I would never do? I would never tell you you have to. And I would constantly give you the right to say no.
sure, but you ain't going to let me come and park my truck on your lawn. And
Come park it.
the fact is,
Come park it. I'll give you my address. Come park it. Come park it. Put freedom on it.
the
I'll give
fact
you
that
my address.
when you put 400 trucks in a downtown area where people were
Bring them. Bring them.
you
Bring them.
terrorized the people. You
I'm
terrorized the
sorry, but
people of
I'm
Ottawa.
sorry. I have a.
All right, no,
I'm
no,
sorry, but when you.
Harry, let him talk.
You
Oh, go
terrorize the
ahead. My bad.
people of Ottawa. They have rights and freedoms too, and you have to
They do.
balance that out. I'm just saying, if the truckers want to protest, they park their trucks down in Canada by the arena. They take a Uber up to Parliament Hill, jump around. They can fly their F Trudeau signs if they want. They can get all out of their system. Then they go back and get their trucks. But you don't hold a city hostage, and you don't shut down the economy of Canada and the transportation routes in Canada with your big behemoth dinosaur trucks, because no other demographic. Have you ever wondered why? It's just the truckers all of a sudden, and it's a fringe element of the truckers. All
Do
three
you know
unions
where
and
the truckers were
all three
parked?
truckers associations and all three unions
I'm a
condemned this
paramedic
thing.
in Oklahoma talking about it. So I mean, it's not that fringe. I'm a paramedic, not a trucker in Oklahoma who's currently having difficult. Okay, go ahead. That doesn't matter. Go ahead. He's got a
95.
good point. Let's listen to his
So
point.
anyway, we live because I've traveled, I've been to Russia and I've been to Turkey and I've been to Saudi Arabia, I've been to Cuba. I've traveled around a lot. I get pretty passionate because I absolutely love Canada. We've had some difficult situations. I mean, I lived through the Pierre Elliott Trudeau times. I've lived through a lot of different prime ministers that have run the country. Trudeau is he's I don't know what he's going through right now, but he's he's trying the best he can to deal with a very difficult situation. And I know y'all love Trump because he was so he was such a bombastic leader. Well, as soon as Trudeau becomes a bombastic leader, then we get all of this response. He's a fascist. He's an emperor. He thinks he's anyway. All I'm saying, the other part of it, we went non-confidence tonight, and we went to another election. I honestly feel that Trudeau would win a majority.
I think the majority of Canadians would vote for blackface Trudeau again.
Yes, they voted for him.
They did twice.
They
Y'all
voted
just
for
had
him.
It's so crazy
y'all
just
just
to
had
say
the
that,
biggest run on your banks. Sorry,
this is
brother,
his-
but y'all just had the
this is
biggest
third
run on your
term.
banks than ever in like history. I've never seen a run on banks in my lifetime like I just saw in Canada. How many people have pulled their money out of Canadian banks at this point? Like, how many people have pulled their money out of y'all's banks? Like, do y'all even know the number of people that have gone, holy shit, our government's gone haywire, and now they're pulling their cash out of your bank? Whenever all the money comes out of your bank, what happens? I'm just curious. I mean, your truckers right now think that you're going to run them over in the streets. That's being shown. Even our CNN is showing that. So our CNN is showing that. Your own government is going, I'll freeze your accounts, and they're pulling the money out left and right. Like it's doing, y'all are like your government's doing the best it can to shadow what they're doing. But even Australia, last thing I saw was going, holy crap, that's bad, and they got people in concentration camps. So that's not okay. Like y'all have some really bad stuff going on.
Concentration
Like
camps
it's not okay. Well, but being put somewhere you don't want to be.
But they're freezing.
I mean, you don't like it. Yeah, I mean that's fine. If you agree to be put where you don't want to be, then you definitely wouldn't make it in America because we don't like those kind of things.
I have absolutely no concern that the government is going to come and put me where I don't want to be.
You wouldn't want to live in Australia.
No, I don't want to be. Thing is there's no chance.
You're in Canada. It's going that way.
Creating a fantasy.
It is.
You're creating a fantasy about some worst possible scenario that I have seen totalitarian governments. Erdogan in Turkey is an absolute demagogue. I've been in Turkey, I've been in Cuba, I've been in St. Petersburg, Russia. I know.
I'm glad you've been there. I'm glad you've been there, and I'm glad you've seen it. That's why you can be in this conversation. But what you're not understanding and not wanting to compute is the fact that a place that you love, just like my place that I love, is doing things that you can't comprehend right now. And what sucks, I'm sorry, so sorry, but you have to compute it and go, this sucks, and we've got to do something about it, rather than making excuses for it.
Well, not making
You've seen
excuses.
it,
All right, guys. I'm gonna Harry. Just there's some other people that have been waiting to get in, and you've been on the longest. So I'm gonna take you out. You can come back in later if you're still around and we're still talking, and I'll just see if they have the same opinion as us, because I know that you and I have similar opinions. So I don't want to just dogpile on somebody.
You're good.
And
Later,
so,
brother. Be careful.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us, man.
I just got to tell you, one of the reasons why they froze the bank accounts was because there's a large amount of Americans like Harry that have donated to as soon as they shut down the GoFundMe, they did the Give Send Go, which is an American charity, and they were trying, and they found that most of the money was coming from the southern United States.
Okay, but just one sec. Thank you for joining us, Jordan. I'll get to you in just 1 second. But just to address your point there, Ian, once again, it comes down to an ideological difference. It's individuals that believe that this is a terrorist organization and a insurrection act upon the government, and therefore this is foreign intervention funding a domestic terrorist group, rather than individuals who live in another country that are supporting a cause that they find to be a reasonable cause that they'd like to donate money to. So it's all dependent around how you believe and what you think this is.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Oh man, it was
we got
Halloween came
Spider-Man
early.
in the chat. Yeah.
I got a couple.
Hey,
You
Well,
coming to
what
save
does
us all?
Jordan? What does Jordan have
yeah,
to tell us?
absolutely. I'm here to fourth wall break. That's the point.
Deadpool. No, it's Deadpool.
Can you,
Spider-Man.
can you see my face?
Yeah, we can see your face.
Not
It's,
Oh, cool. Okay. All right.
what's your take? What's your position? So
Well, my position is this: no matter what we've been in, no matter which direction you think this has gone, whether it's good or bad or paid or not, Canadians just did a thing that now gives good political powers all the power in the world to fight against the bad tyranny stuff. Whether you think or not, some group was paid or some terrorist was paid or someone like put it all together, it doesn't matter. The whole point was that the majority of Canadians did a peaceful protest. Now that we did a peaceful protest, this peaceful protest, we even allowed Trudeau to come in and take everyone out of Ottawa. And we did it, and the Canadians did it peacefully, mind you. Because they did that, the good powers that reside in places that have an imagination and a mindset that we can never even fathom now have powers to destroy the evil oppressions. Because of that, the whole world now knows exactly what to do.
well, thank you. That's interesting. I did. Did you say that the majority of Canadians participated in a peaceful protest?
Well, in some form or another, yes.
Okay, I think that some of our participation was that we reeled in horror in what we were seeing on the streets of Ottawa.
But I think that the point that he's trying to make is actually a really good point that I've kind of been talking about the past few days, where you saw that throughout this has been an ongoing protest. Not even you, I don't think you said this evening, but it's been considered an occupation for the past month in Ottawa. You say they've shut down the downtown core. They've been in that area for an entire month. And there was no incidents of violence until the police came in and decided to get violent with the protesters. The moment that happened, you saw the protesters actively leave the area.
Yes.
They didn't come back that night. They didn't fight the police. Didn't turn into a riot in downtown Ottawa. If this was any other cause, you've seen it. How many times have you seen the excuse, we didn't get violent until the police show up? It didn't get violent until the police got violent. The police got violent at this protest, but they continued to be peaceful, which was a very good sentiment because the people there aren't there to fight. Don't fight the police. If they want you to leave, leave. And they did. And so this gives way that if the government wants to do whatever they're going to do, go ahead and do it. The people show that they're peaceful. If you're going to go ahead and continue to act the way you're acting, right now, if you want to pass this Emergency Measures Act, for what? The people have left Ottawa.
Because Trudeau said today that
Yeah.
he thinks that they could come back and create the same contagion.
He could have handled it with the provincial government if he had have done something in the very beginning, like the Bloc Québécois said countless times throughout the past 2 days. If he had have if not him, but if the provincial government had have stepped up, since they're gone, that does not create an emergency or an immediate threat. They're not there. If they chose to come back, then the provincial government should step up and do what they should do to stop them from coming into downtown, like they didn't do in the first place. But this doesn't require a federal emergency act. This is for all provinces, and it's not just here in Ontario or just in the downtown Ottawa core where this is going on. This is why it's such a big issue, right? It's affecting all Canadians.
Yeah, his father did the same thing with the War Measures Act, the FLQ crisis, and came under a lot of combination. But now that's why Canada is so wonderful in that we have checks and balances. We got past the first check and balance tonight. This may go down. This still has a Senate and the charter. The human rights people are going to challenge it. I think that they're probably going to. I think it's going to.
And keep in mind too, Trudeau has not only said a bunch of things over the last week that is completely contradicted, hit every word he's ever produced ever. Like, just mind just for a moment that Trudeau has just told everyone, well, vaccinations work, blah, blah, blah. He got infected. And now we're at a place where he hid behind these kids, and then he tried a couple things, and now he invoked the Emergencies Act, which was like the most insane thing that's ever happened. So the thing is, what's going on right now is the whole world's
That was
watching.
cute. I like that.
I like the kitten. Like the whole world's watching, and the whole world is seeing that Canadians are peaceful, and these peaceful Canadians allowed their government to do the oppression. Okay, we did it peacefully. Now that Trudeau, what does Trudeau have left? He stabbed the Canadian people, and now because we're sorry, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? We're like, we took the stabbing, and we were like, we're sorry, Trudeau, stop stabbing us, and now he said all this stuff. He's pulled out all of his guns. He shot the bazooka, and now we're in a place where the whole world just watched that.
I think
This is changing everything.
honestly, I've been a few different countries. Canada is always seen as a wonderful place, but right now I think the eyes of the world are on Ukraine. I don't think that many people are that concerned about what's happening in Canada, but the Canadians are, and I think we hold our rights and freedoms dearly. I don't think I was in court one time. I'm a social worker, and I was in court in criminal court, and they said, and a lawyer said this very thing to me. He says, nobody cares about the rights and freedoms until they feel that some of your rights and freedoms are challenged. They lay dormant on a piece of paper, and so they really, you can live your life as a Canadian, and that's one of the greatest things about being a Canadian is you can live never having to exercise or to challenge or to even be aware of your rights. You can just basically move towards your own version of the pursuit of happiness and prosperity in this country. So I know this is a temporary situation. I know it like from the outside looking in, it looks like martial law. It looks like dictatorship. But honestly, I think that the majority of Canadians were embarrassed by this show that was going on in Ottawa.
Oh,
and just
mind you, the whole world was.
just wanted it over. And I think that Trudeau may have just positioned himself as being a strong leader. And you can reframe it and call it dictatorship or whatever, demagogue, whatever you want. But I think that I think that if they got a non-confidence vote, which triggered another election, I think that the majority of Canadians who are vaccinated, who don't understand the reason for people to get vaccinated, they have adopted the reason to get vaccinated, and can't really understand why the 10% of other of Canadians have adopted sometimes some crazy conspiracy theories to not get vaccinated. So we kind of look at them as being,
Well,
like,
I'm unvaccinated.
well,
I'm
that's
actually
your-
part of the 10%.
that's your choice. And I think that and because we're in a global pandemic, this country has adopted some restrictions. Like every country in the world has adopted some restrictions. I've had to live under them. I have not liked living under them, but we've all been in this together. They're starting to ease, but obviously the Charter people they wanted to have them eliminated completely. So they weren't successful in their goals for their protest. I don't think.
Well,
But I think that what happens.
Here's my opinion about vaccines versus unvaccinated. Here's my opinion. I think the government is, believe it or not, this is just, okay, conspiracy theory. Sure, I'm 10%. Let's go with some crazy conspiracy theory here. I think the government's actually afraid of viruses that are coming out of the polar or the Antarctic, the poles, North Pole, South Pole. They're worried about global warming. And because they're worried about that global warming, they found a bunch of mucus coming out of the ice. And what they're worried about is the world being mutated from that. So what they've decided to do is hand out a vaccine to everyone to prevent that from happening. So we get like, a certain kind of immunity to a certain plethora of infections that could happen. That's one reasonable thought that I had in order to force it. It seems because you never know if you're the bad guy
You're proving my
unless
point.
Yeah, so you never know if you're the bad
couldn't-
guy because you're
couldn't
trying to
make
do
my
the good
point
thing.
You couldn't make my point easier. Thank you for.
Well,
for your
I'm
defense. But
also
can
with your point.
But you got to understand.
I'm also with,
in a place where people are dying from this. It's not, to concoct some kind of a very science fiction kind of a explanation is just, we have to realize the science. There's science here.
yeah. The thing is, the government can't tell the people what the science is because, the whole world, because it'll be cause mass panic. Because
10.5 billion doses have been given out worldwide. There's no zombie apocalypse. And with our friend down in the States here's the contrast. In Canada, we have had 33,000 people die, which is horrible. I feel, like people are posting pictures all over Facebook about the poor little lady that got trampled. And I'm sorry, that's really it's horrible that she did. But everybody, it's like, you've kind of like 33,000 people died with BPAP stuck down their throat and catheters, and that was.
I know, but like it's all about how you want to frame things. Also, all the countless individuals who died alone without their family members because individuals weren't allowed into hospitals. All the people that died due to mental health situations, being stuck at home without any loved ones. All the children with learning disabilities now because they were unable to literally communicate with individuals from a young age. There's lots of impacts that this entire situation has had, and so looking at the number of people that were impacted by a virus with a 99% survival rate is going to not really compare when we start breaking down numbers of everybody that's been infected. So I don't really want to do that right now because it's a much deeper situation. We need to get statistics out. We need to get numbers out. It's really just our opinions.
Well,
I'm just going to say this. I appreciate you both being on, but there's a lot of people that want to join in. So I'll give you both the floor just to say anything that you have on your mind, anything that you're thinking, and some final thoughts here. Ian, I'll start with you.
Okay. Just the one fact that you might want. 32,000 people in Canada. We're 1/10 of the population of the United States. Where United States, that they are 63% vaccinated. 900,000 people in the States have died. And so we should have, if the vaccines weren't working, and by equality, we should be up to about 90,000 people died. Canada has responded. The majority of Canada has responded to this pandemic by getting vaccinated, by masking. We've always been known as the polite people who say we're sorry, and I just sometimes can't believe that that there's this fringe element that becomes so rude that they built a little ghost kingdom of philosophy and science fiction around why they don't get vaccinated. But that being said, thank you so much. I really love Canada, and I thank you for letting me say my piece. You're a very polite and very patient host. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. And thank you for inviting me to the open debate today. I actually really appreciate it. And you know what? I got some last words for everybody here. You know what? It's just this. It all starts with you. Before you waste your time trying to gain wealth, health, happiness, youth, beauty, talent, let me tell you the most important and most valuable thing that you will ever possess. It is the self-image of yourself as a winner in life and as a contributor to the betterment of mankind. And it is an achiever of worthwhile goals. And until you have that image of yourself, nothing is worth having and nothing will stay with you long. So prosper. Love you guys. Thank you so much. And I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. So I'm right in the heart of this with you guys. So let's keep it together and keep it peaceful.
Well, thank you for coming out. Thanks for joining us tonight. So that's been good, guys. Lots of good conversations so far. No, not everybody has the same opinion, but that's what we're here to do. I want to find out what people are thinking, how they're feeling after this vote was passed. As you can see, 185 yes, 151 no. So, you know, it's divided. It was split. It's not a majority one way or the other. So if you'd like to come in and tell us how you feel, make sure to hit that request to join button, and we will get a few people in here, and they can tell us their opinions. Hey there, awesome mama. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. Thanks for joining us on the open debate.
So yeah, like one of the things that caught my attention was when I can't remember his name, but it looked like he was in a workout, like almost in a gym, his pose. But anyways, he was saying how like what's going on in Ottawa is an embarrassment to him in Canada. And I think I feel like the reason why he's embarrassed with other people is because of their own pride. I think deep down, they realize that the things that they voted for and the things that they're doing has actually caused what everybody has been saying would happen for years. And they just don't want to say, yep, you were right. And I think that's what it boils down to. Because everything that was said would happen is happening. And it's not cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. Um, yeah, it's that's why I like to have these conversations to try to understand why people have come to the conclusions that they have and why people feel the way that they do. It's like we had just said, 185 yes, 151 no. So not everybody is in support or against. It's pretty split, kind of the way Canada is. And how did you feel when you heard the news?
Well, I live in America, actually Washington State, so pretty close to Canada, but still in the U.S. Um, so I heard about a little bit about the act, and there was talks about it wanting to happen with bank accounts and whatnot. But your feed was actually the first thing I've seen, because I got off work not too long ago. Um, about it actually passing. Can you explain a little bit more on what he's allowed to do with that act?
Um, so essentially, from what I've seen, I'm sure that there's a lot more to it than I fully am aware, but it allows them to like consolidate government forces to put into one area. I think the military can use uh, tactics force against its citizens in order to, if there was still a protest going on, in order to stop the protest from happening. But I think the main situations is it allows them to freeze any bank accounts and look into the funds being distributed between individuals who have participated in this convoy, because it essentially would deem the convoy uh, in the same realms as a domestic terrorist act, because the government's now being called in order to um, fight against a situation that's been perpetrated by the citizens. So from what I've
Yeah.
seen, the most of the grievances is the oversight that it gives them to look into bank accounts and freeze individual citizens' bank accounts without any sort of warrant or any sort of court order. And it goes into as far as any sort of crypto that's being transferred has to go through the government and can be tracked as well. So it's just a really strange situation. I'm sure there's a lot more measures that are put in place that I just have not bothered to look into, because I am one man who does not sit in the House of Commons and cannot change things myself. I can help by keeping the conversation going, but I don't know. I should have looked into it more.
Yeah, educate a little bit more. That is one of the things that I found, with people who did vote in my country for Biden. They would just straight up tell me, "Hey, I'm not really into politics." And
Yeah.
so it's I've seen a lot of it is just a lack of education. It's a lack of looking into stuff. I had a friend who worked at a pharmacy and told me, "Oh, the vaccine jab is just like the flu vaccine. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not even, it's not the same stuff. And you work in a pharmacy. So I've been baffled by a few things with that for sure. Um, but, I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. And when everything started going down 2 years ago and whatnot, I would not even go close to even calling that domestic terrorism. That is people upset, And
Mhm.
I was not like condoning the violence or anything, but what baffled me is people trying to hide it, saying it wasn't happening when it's right down the street from me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like having the opposite right now in Ottawa, where it's peaceful and kind and people are helping each other and coming together, and then you have the media saying it's violent. It's just, I don't even know where to even really get my news anymore. It's like
Well,
everything is
that's so.
so like propaganda and catchy
Mhm.
words. It's like, I don't want that shit. I don't care if it's
I
boring.
I
Like, give me
agree.
the
I
real
agree with
stuff.
you. Yeah, I agree with you. But like somebody else in the previous conversation had said, um, they believe as though this could be perceived as Trudeau not acting as an authoritarian or in the manner of a dictator, but more so being a strong leader. But
all about hope. That whole convo is about the light at the end of the tunnel on the amount of mental anguish that the majority of Canadians have gone through thus far. It's playing a toll on everybody on both sides. And this is just my opinion, but seeing the statistics on mental health, the increase of our children, suicide rates, depression, sadness, when is it going to end? And for me, my question always was, what is the end goal for the convoy? Well, the end goal was to free us, to be done with this. But you ask Justin Trudeau, what is your end goal? There is none. There is no end goal still. It's still up for debate. He's never given us a plan as to when this is going to end. And that is what everyone's getting frustrated with. And at the end of the day, that's not a great leader when someone just says, well, we're just going to play it by ear. And by the way, the budget's going to balance itself. That's not how this works. And people are seeing that, and people are getting actually terrified of this because this has only been for 2 years. Now imagine what's going to happen to society in another 2 years. Where will we be? Nobody has a plan. There's no leadership in that. And I think that is what the biggest heartbreak about all of this is that this was a peaceful protest. I was there. I saw it for myself. I drove all the way from Calgary to Ottawa, 40-hour trip, saw it how it is. And I got to be honest with you, what I saw opened my eyes to the amount of lies that are being fed on social, not social media, out of global news, CBC, mainstream media. Yeah, that opened my eyes to the amount of lies, and even Parliament was lying about the events of that day because they're still going off of whatever the media says too. So this narrative is just not working. Now, whether you believe it or not, whether you're for the truckers or you're not for the truckers, you all have to admit that what is happening right now is on a whole level of wrongness. This is not okay on any level to treat your society or your citizens in this manner. I don't give a crap whether or not you believe in this convoy, but to have the power to freeze bank accounts, freeze your assets, freeze everything about who you are because you donated to a cause you believe in, and that doesn't bother you, there's a problem there. If that does not bother you, there should be a problem, and you should be addressing this problem immediately.
And
So
even if
that's what
people say that you can fight that, the government will make you go broke in litigation before you will win anything.
that's what that's the whole point of this. That's what the whole point is. I have consistent debates and conversations with people about the vaccine, about people, why aren't you just getting vaccinated? Why won't you do this and that? And here's the answer that I'll always give to anybody that wants to understand what this is going on. It has nothing to do with people waking up saying, I'm going to be an asshole today and tell everyone I'm not getting vaccinated just so that your grandmother or grandfather can die. That's not how it works. The way this works is very simple. The majority of people that are not vaccinated also know what type of companies that have come out with this vaccine, i.e. Pfizer. Their history is marred with so much nonsense where they're being sued for putting profits over the healthcare of others, of humanity, where they're constantly lying.
And why does everybody just pass over the fact that how many people have come out saying that this is man-made?
Though that's a whole different topic. But all I'm saying,
honestly, we don't really know for sure where the hell it came from.
No, well, I could tell you for sure it didn't come from a wet bar or a wet market. Sorry, I can guarantee you that.
Wet bar?
No, we all need a drink after this. But no, what I'm saying, I'll be done in a second here. I thank you very much for your patience.
You're good.
All I wanted to say is that from my experience is that I don't trust this pharmaceutical company because they have more than a shady past. You have J&J where they just finally, retracted their talc powder for babies because it's caused cancer. It's all of this nonsense that's happening continuously with Pfizer, that they're always in lawsuits. So yes, people are hesitant to take it. But my question that I always ask is, whatever happened to the fifth doctor? Which means 4 out of 5 doctors agree on a certain medication. What happened to the fifth doctor here? Why did you shun that fifth doctor? I have never seen 4 out of 4 doctors or scientists agree on anything. And to not allow that certain open and transparent dialect so that we can all make an informed decision as to the pros and cons of what's going on in this, that's what we're all missing. And that's what we need right now. I want to hear both sides. I want to hear the opposing and the pro. And they've never given us this at all. And there's many doctors out there that would love to do this, that would love to have, this is what it can do for you, and this is what it can't do for you. This is what it's good for.
I definitely think that there might be some benefits to some people with this vaccine at a certain age.
But you should be able to make that choice for yourself.
Exactly. When I try to tell people, like when people ask me why I'm not vaccinated, I tell them I went to my doctor. I asked her, as a 34-year-old woman, what are my chances of developing a blood clot or having an adverse reaction? What is my percentage of that possibly being able to happen? Even if it's 99.something%, what is it? And now, what is my percentage of getting COVID, dying, or having a long haul COVID or an adverse reaction from COVID? And she looked at me and she said, I can't tell you those numbers. I've looked on the CDC website and I can't even tell you that information. So how am I able to make that choice when I do not have informed consent? Sorry. I gotta really.
So that's exactly going on with what I was just saying, though. is that
And
they
then
don't have, they're
everybody,
not having an open debate about this. They're not being transparent
yeah,
whatsoever.
well, they do, but then they want to give you the percentage over everyone from the age to the point that they die. And that's not proper. That's not proper information. Like, my risk level isn't going to be the same as an 80-year-old woman. So why am I using those same statistics?
But this is what I'm talking about, is that you would have scientists and doctors on both sides of the spectrum that could give you these answers in a live debate or a live conversation so that you can make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to take this or you don't.
Yeah.
That's what they're missing in here, and that's the whole point. And it feels like that's where we're losing all the whole narrative about this issue around the vaccinations. Is it's not people, the majority of people that have gotten their kids vaccinated and you know our childhood vaccinations, we're not, the people aren't anti-vaccine, but we are definitely anti-big pharma and definitely anti no choice kind of like I want to have a choice, and same with everybody else. And I want to have I want to make a, I want to feel good about myself when I've made this decision, said, you know what, I decided this decision because I thought I decided it was the best for me because of what I was, you know, presented with. Simple as that. I don't want to take something blindly or have to. And I'm, by the way, we are double vaxxed, so I am double vaxxed. But I'm saying I didn't feel comfortable at all in any shape, way, or form of having to do that. And I still say the same thing. You know, I don't know if it's safe. We still don't know what the repercussions are going to be in years from now because nobody's really talking about it. Anybody that talks against this narrative gets canceled. And I think that's where my red flags are. And that's where a majority of people's red flags are, is that they're getting canceled.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring one more person in here to talk with us, so just keep that in mind that there'll be three of us in here. And Beckett, I'll get you in here a little bit later on if you're still around, because I know that we have similar opinions. So I just want to give some other people the floor this
Yeah.
evening. 'Cause I know we've
Well,
talked.
like this is the thing with like I fully like I don't have I don't I'm not trying to be contra. Like, I agree with Mark totally. Just how this conversation has to happen is what's at issue here. There was a study that came out of Paris from a business institute. It talks about something called truth distortion, right? Um, and it's the idea that people having heated debates on issues that they're not learned about as like non-medical professionals divides the society into two camps, and the prevailing camp will push a narrative that influences medicine in of itself. So a doctor, any medical professional, is feeling pressure from outside of the medical realm to say certain things and not have the value to be objective. And the problem with that fundamentally is, like, I worked with the Liberal government. I understand. I'm very pro vaccination. Please, I do believe it's safe. But what I will always default to as a policy professional is talk to your doctor. People that are saying go read these complex statistics and data by themselves, you are not trained to do that. Part of being a doctor is the practice of pedagogy, meaning you have to be able to interpret medical consensus, interpret statistics. You have to be able to decide which sources are more legitimate or relevant than others. Then you have to look at your patient, the individual needs and requirements of that patient, and you have to make a case for that very contextual situation. And when we start saying blanket things, like just look at the data and make a personal decision, that data is not suited to your personal well-being. Your doctor is. So this is I have problems with like people who are vehemently anti-vax. They say like insane things to me, like it's, I don't know, the microchip stuff. But I also have a problem with people who are vehemently trust the data absolutely, don't talk to your doctor, or go look for a medical opinion that agrees with your position, because that is just as dangerous.
So philosophy, can I ask you a question real quick then? Just on, based on what you said, would you agree that what the government has done thus far, really not giving anybody the exemptions that they're asking for because of fear of being allergic or having some sort of adverse reaction from this? Do you believe that the government has acted appropriately by saying everyone needs to take this shot, and then we'll decide after the first dose whether or not you can get your exemption? Would you agree that that's pretty harsh? That the way that
This
they're,
is the thing. This is like
hold on,
this is an evolving situation, right? It's not like we're not looking at this in terms of like no timeline. So like you said, you got the 2-dose regimen, I assume earlier than like on in time, right? So your opinion and decision to get that 2-dose regimen was different based on the contextual facts of the at the time you decided to get it. This is
Correct.
why.
Well, I was under the guise that
I'm not trying to
in
say
order
you
to
did anything. I'm just saying like
no, but I
anyone.
did. I did get it though. Like that's
No,
the thing is I did get it.
You did or you didn't. What I'm saying is like when like for instance, people were right to be scared when this
Right.
thing was new in March 2020. Like this was a very legitimate like concern. COVID is real, and you have a right to be scared. And I don't care whether it came from a lab or a web. I don't care. The fact is, it's here, and we have to deal with it.
Right.
The point is, this is the thing with mandates. As a reactionary response, mandates were a good thing. Going forward, we have to understand that mandates may not be the best way of dealing with this. And this is
But
where
everybody didn't
Why?
think
Why?
it was the best way, though. So
Why
many
was it the
people
best
said it was awful. Whenever, even psychology will tell you, if you tell a person they have to do something, they're going to want to do the complete opposite. The best way you can get people
the
to
mandates
change
didn't
is
exist
through
the mandates didn't
education.
exist for the first 6 or 7 months.
What was that?
Vaccine mandates didn't exist primarily, which is what I'm talking about. When I talk about mandates in this specific instance, I'm talking about like mask mandates and isolation mandates. Those were
Yeah, that
generally-
never should have happened either.
Yeah, but after the first 6 or 7 months, didn't they have like any data showing if the vaccine was working or not, and how well?
So when we
that
talk
should be
about
going
when we
through,
talk
or-
about when we talk about mandates here, we have to look at who was mandating what.
Yeah,
The
and
federal
where we're
government
talking about.
had very limited general mandates. Like they have mandates over like via rail and stuff like that for the general public. And
Well, hold on. Let me. I have to interject into this because what you're saying right now is coming from. I'm assuming because you are probably fully vaccinated yourself. Mandates are not a necessity. I mean, you can't call this to the person that lost their job because of fear of having some sort of reaction to the vaccine, and then they lost their job. They can't go to a restaurant to eat. They cannot travel. You can't add that saying that mandates haven't really affected.
No.
Or
I'm not
that
saying
they're actually good in that sense.
You're misconstruing my point a little bit. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I haven't said that they've had real harm. They absolutely have. What I'm saying is.
So that's what we have to measure it by, shouldn't it? Shouldn't
it
be measured by the amount of harm it does?
I agree with you. What I'm saying, each provincial government is the one that decided on where these mandates would come from non-federal services, right? So this wasn't just like Trudeau. This was like a literal politically unanimous decision across the country that the harm in creating mandates was less than the harm of the virus.
That's because the agreement was we would shut down for 2 weeks, and then it was turned to 2 months.
The agreement
and
was
everybody said,
look,
get
I'm not
ready.
talking
And
about.
so Trump got ready. We had ships sitting at sea for COVID patients that didn't even see any COVID patients.
Look,
okay, but
let's just make the full point so we all have a full understanding of where he's actually coming from, and then we'll make the response on how you feel about like his actual position. Okay. Like what we have to consider is that these decisions were not made with context. There was no hindsight. It could have made they may have very well absolutely believed and had data to say 2 weeks was enough. But as you have to keep thinking, this is a process. We can't look back and think of it as if we had all this information from the start. There was an evolution. But we did. There was an evolution and understanding of the risk, and you can't say that we did when the virus wasn't long enough to test people on it. Like we had no data. There's no way you can make that claim unless you want to say that we had like the virus was released intentionally, and that's I don't think that's kind of weird to me. But
it was man-made. I mean, whether the intention was there or not,
sure. But
I don't think that's really up for debate.
Regardless of where it came from, I'm not going to argue man-made, whatever. Regardless of where it came from, even if it was man-made in a lab in China, we wouldn't have access to that information anyways. So, the point I'm trying to make is mandates were an emergency, panicked, reactionary response to try and save as many lives as possible. Which is exactly why going forward, they're not a good idea. it's very heavy-handed and it's damaging. To your point, people lost their livelihoods, people had their mental health damaged, but as we understood at the time of the mandates, we were just trying to do the most heavy-handed proactive thing possible to save lives,
But
which
isn't
is
it getting heavier?
precisely why going forward
Hey, I get your
mandates.
point, man. But that puts so much fear into people. You
Well,
shouldn't.
people had a right to be. People should have been there. People were rightfully scared. If you look at other SARS viruses in history, like Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, SARS-1, this could have been like a societal killer. 20% death rates, the collapse of public services. That's where we just didn't know. So we
I
had the
think that
right
this
to be
is where
scared.
I think this is where the argument comes in, though. It's like in the beginning, so this is where the conversation needs to be had, and like you had started off the conversation by saying, it needs to be had by the proper professionals, and then those
Exactly.
debates need to actually be aired to the general public and not frowned upon. Being able to have these conversations should not be looked at as trying to disprove that COVID is a bad thing. It should be looking at all the information. And so where I think the other side is coming from is the fact that when these mandates were initially being put in place, your position is that individuals believed that this was the best solution in order to save lives compared to what would happen if the mandates weren't in place. But there's an entire different group of individuals who felt as though those weren't the best options and we should take different precautions. And now that we're at this place where you say, we've looked at the data, it doesn't seem to be the best option, maybe we shouldn't use them moving forward. The debate that needs to be had is, was that the best option? Was the options that individuals were perpetrating or putting forth as a contrary belief, was that a legitimate source of a way to move forward? Looking at other other places in the world that have implemented different solutions to their problem and seeing how it worked for their citizens, and just collecting the information, because either way we need to move forward in some way, right?
Yeah, and this is where I would say
We should
whether
know
or not we were right retroactively is a fantastic conversation for study. I'm not saying everything was perfect. It's not. No emergency response is perfect, right? It never is. What I'm saying is, like, what we can say with what we know now, going forward, we shouldn't be creating more harm with policy than we are good. Meaning that if we're going to start making policy that's divisive to the body politic and damaging to political or public health professionals and the medical profession as a whole, we need to ask ourselves what we're doing here. So this is where, like, you can be understanding of why there was a mandate, because we simply did not know at the time in which how harmful anything was. It's like ducking under a bullet. If you duck and then you slip and break your neck, right? You were still trying to dodge a bullet. It's a very weird thing to, like, how would you know?
It's still, yeah, but basically, like, the easiest way to get my point across is you can be understanding as to why there was a mandate and still not be in agreement with it. As half the Canadians understand why Justin Trudeau is the prime minister, but they don't agree with him being the prime minister, right? They can see it. It is what it is. They didn't choose it. That's not what their choice would be, but that's what other people chose, and that's what we did.
At that point. Yep.
Yeah.
So can I interject here for a second? I think a large portion of people right now are kind of getting tired of the fear tactics that's being used for the past 2.5, 3 years almost now. I think that's everyone is getting tired of it now, that they're constantly sitting there and they're saying fear this, fear that. They're not talking about the actual issues that we want to hear, especially on the mainstream media. All they're doing is pushing the same narrative they did 2 years ago. And it's getting right now, it's getting ridiculous. And a lot of people are seeing, like myself, my children that are going to school, my child that goes to school right now is having issues, with trying to focus and this and that, because kids are no longer sociable with each other. They can't be. They're getting frowned upon, and then you have like I said, the mental health issue that rises from this fear mongering is absolutely insanity. And when you don't have an end goal and you're maintaining this is actually a form of torture towards citizens in society. When there's no end goal, when there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just a constant fear-mongering campaign, you're going to get people that are going to say, enough's enough. You didn't see anybody protesting the first. Let me finish 1 second, guys. You didn't see anybody no worries. You didn't see anybody protesting the first 2 weeks at all. People did what they needed to do. They stayed at home for the 2 weeks. Yes, we had a toilet paper pandemic. Yes, we went through that. We saw what people did with toilet paper. Okay. That wasn't one of our glorious moments. I can tell you that right in the world, but we all did. But after that, when they said, okay, get your first shot, okay, get your first shot. That's what you need. People weren't really pressing against that, but the fear tactic was on, and it was pressing every single day, every single night. And it started getting a little bit more of an annoyance because they're saying that the amount of fear that they're portraying around the world. I was expecting to walk outside my house and seeing dead bodies lying around everywhere. Didn't happen. Then to say we need a second, we understand variants happened. I understand that. But to have a second, but maintain the same sort of fear mongering thus far, it started getting a little bit obvious now that it was either out of their control, and they're always going to be chasing the rabbit. They'll never catch up to the variants, which is what they were saying the majority of the time, or they're posing some sort of narrative of overreaching government tactics. And that's where a lot of people are thinking this is what's happening right now, is the government overreach has become so ridiculous now that it's really literally hindering the majority of these people's lives that are against these vaccines, and that's why they're standing, or these mandates, sorry, and that's why they're standing up against it now. They're getting tired of it. I'm one of them. I'm freaking sick and tired of this now. I'm tired of living in this country like this.
To this point, right? This is how, like, this is the problem with public health, right? Has doctors, has policy professionals, has all different types. It's like, it's not just a doctor making decisions. It's a group of people.
And this is what I've noticed more and more with the medical field. It's like they go to school, they do their internship, they get into a doctor's office, hospital, whatever, and they're given these policies and procedures to follow, or they're given pamphlets by the pharmaceutical companies on here are the drugs that can treat these sort of diseases. I don't think there's real research and science going on when it comes to the medical field a majority of the time. I'm talking about the day-to-day doctors that people see. And I know that from personal experience because I had a copper IUD because the doctor said it can't mess with your hormones. I was having great depression during my period. Come to find out, doing my own research, that copper can actually throw off your hormone level worse than birth controls with hormones in them. Soon as I got it removed, I was better, and my doctor was baffled. They don't know everything, and so
I understand and I sympathize with that experience, but I don't want to doctor bash because that's not helping the problem.
No, it's not doctor bashing. It's reality.
I want to bring up that point because I was gonna say, so there are a few more people that want to hop into the chat, so I'm gonna for our conversation. I want to pose this question. I'm not gonna cut you guys off just yet. I'm just letting you know that we're gonna wrap this one up pretty soon, just soon, because there are a few more people that want to hop in. I want to let them know that they're gonna get in. But I want to ask you guys this question though as well, because it has to do with what you were talking about, Illis, when you came in and everything. I understandably that yes, you should go and you should speak with your medical professionals, but from what a lot of people say, they don't really trust their doctors at this point. And so how do we solve that issue where people aren't trusting doctors and the doctors that they are seeing for themselves, right? Because I've seen this to be a big problem with a lot of people.
This is like what I was about to say, really, is public health is not just medical science. A lot of it is messaging and dealing with the general public and understanding the politics of a situation. It is very damaging to them. You can damage the public health effort by just damaging the messaging and the credibility of public health in of itself, right? So it requires, public health is a two-way relationship, meaning people have to respect public health and public health have to respect people. What has happened here is the messaging part has been obfuscated by bad conversation. And this is where public health PHAC, the Public Health Agency of Canada, is right now. It is absolutely better for them to say right now that if you want to know the thing that no politician will say, which is really what should be said, is the COVID, we've lost the fight against COVID-19, meaning we're going to have to live with this reality. And if Justin Trudeau wanted, if the Liberal cabinet wanted to unite the party, or sorry, unite the country, they would come out and say what Joel Lightbound said, or like along the lines of something like, I understand that we have acted with a heavy hand in creating mandates. This is why we did so, because we didn't know at the time how bad this was going to be. And going forward, here's what we can do to help people who are disproportionately affected during the lockdowns. Things like creating a fund to help people who have lost everything, or helping people in rural communities who didn't even have access to doctors. This is where we can be progressive for everyone, regardless of political affiliation, and say we as Canadians need to come together and help each other, not just look at this from a partisan politics perspective and say this is conservative versus liberal. No, this is the real issue that no one is talking about is this is a failure of leadership. It's not about
Well, I think we're all talking. I see this is what's
and that's
ironic is that this is exactly what that Freedom Convoy was saying, is that there's a problem with government.
Yes, and
I
absolutely agree. And what I'm saying, the Freedom Convoy has fascists in it that derailed the message. The same way any
but there's fascists, but you can't.
Yeah, I get it. No,
people can't base it on that. You can't base it on that.
Any protest, dude. I get it.
The
if I look
only
at like
person derailing the message is I see the Canadian and American governments.
If I look at any protest, right, a hyper left wing or a hyper right wing protest, the extremes in both protesters. If you look at anarchists in a hyper left wing and fascists in a hyper right wing, they have the same goal, which is to destroy the government. That is why it is not, and they have more in common with each other than they do the rest of Canadians. You can't
I think
label.
the media frame this as a right-wing movement, though. I feel as
Yeah,
though most people
and this is why I say
don't
it's
consider
a
themselves
problem with the
right-wing,
messaging.
right?
And if you look at the Liberal MP who broke ranks, like this is a Liberal MP from Quebec, Joel Lightbound, who came out and said, I see Canadians there, not just fascists. That's the point. And the problem, I've seen things on TikTok where people are arguing if anyone who is unvaccinated should not be Canadian anymore.
Yeah,
that's insane to me.
But hold on, but where are they getting that from? I mean, honestly, if Justin Trudeau has voiced this, he says that people that are not vaccinated are taking up space. What do you mean by that, sir?
Do you know what this is? I can tell you. I can give you a very good. There is a growing air of authoritarianism around the world right now.
Yes.
And you see it in all nations, all politics. I don't like saying the Great Reset. I don't agree with that. But what I can say empirically, like just from my own perspective here, that authoritarianism doesn't have to be right wing. It doesn't have to be left wing. You can have fascism. You can have hyper communism. The problem is extremism is toxic to the whole, to like the body politic. And whether you're founded in the left or the right, wherever it comes from, treating someone as an objective source of truth is never conducive to a healthy outcome. And I don't care. And this is why the people, like if you look at the fascists who say things like a certain ethnic group should not be allowed to be Canadians, these are people from who are anarchist, communist, whatever, hyper left side, who are saying people who make certain choices should not be part of our society. It is from the same.
When you speak this way, how did you become that with that logic? Yet the majority of lefts that I've seen thus far don't share the same logic you do at all.
I don't know,
because I've seen so much hatred happen around people's decision on what side they stand on, that they literally are devaluing humanity at its core, saying that these people are nothing but sludge.
I have an education.
I have to applaud you, sir. I do have to applaud you. I have to give you applaud, man, because to have your thoughts is great. I mean, I have to commend that.
I have an education, and like I have very extensive education in political theory. That's all good and well, but the point is, if you ever live in a society that doesn't grant certain fundamental freedoms and liberties to people, there is a big problem with that. And if you look at where how this thought process looks as a function, the most decrepit groups that we've seen in our societies and humanity have used that same logic to justify their beliefs. And it is not the people, it is not it's not it's that structure of thinking which is dangerous. And I don't care what race, whatever you are, Canadian, American, left, right, it's universal. Is that if you're trying to use that type of exclusionary logic process to make rules for a society, you're going to hurt that society and you're going to have a bad outcome for the people in it. We have to
So
understand.
I just want to. Oh, sorry.
No,
Can I
I was just going to
interject?
say we have to understand that we allow people to do dangerous things regularly. We allow
Okay.
people, like the U.S. government allows people to live in New Orleans even after Hurricane Katrina. If we're focused,
Right.
hyper-fixated on saving lives, we can do it to a detriment of freedom. That's my point.
Correct. So I got 2 points I just wanted to make. One, if people really were really wanting to save lives, you might want to look at the hunger, how many people die of hunger every year. That and it does affect all of us. And this is what I say to a lot of people too, is that if we have billions upon billions of dollars to spend on COVID, why haven't we done this thus far for those countries that have hunger issues for children and human beings? Why haven't we put it towards them? I think that would be a pandemic in itself. And secondly, for those of you that are here, I literally just started reading COVID-19: The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab. I do it here live on TikTok at 7 o'clock. Now, after reading this book right here by Klaus Schwab, he has already said, and this is Justin Trudeau has gone to his school and has studied underneath Klaus Schwab, and he's also, if you don't know, he's the CEO of the Economic World Forum, or World Economic Forum. Sorry, he is the CEO of it, and he's self-appointed, by the way, too. So after reading his book, when you said that they weren't aware of this,
Look,
they actually were. Hold on a sec.
I disagree. Like that's where I'll just
No, you can disagree all you want. Hold on, let me finish. I'm telling you about a book that Justin Trudeau has brought. Justin Trudeau has
No
brought it
offense,
up several times.
but he talked a lot. Let him talk.
Yeah, just one sec. Justin Trudeau has brought up the Great Reset several times, all the time. And people are questioning, what is this Great Reset? You can also talk about Build Back Better, which is what Biden has brought up, Merkel's brought that up, and Boris has brought that up. So naturally, I was curious, what are they talking about? So I bought the book. At 7 o'clock, we started reading this book last Thursday. And he does talk about this exact scenario that we are in today with mental health. And he wrote this book back in 2020, prior to any of this happening, prior to like the mandates and what's happening right now. Hell, he even talks about the QR code. Now, either this man is a psychic and seems to know what a QR code is before it even comes out, and putting it on our phone so that we can track and trace this COVID, or this was already planned from the beginning, that they knew that this was going to happen anyways. So why wouldn't they tell the public this? He's even talking about what's happening to our mental psyche of society itself. And yet Justin Trudeau and the government has completely ignored this entirely, not even addressing what it's doing to our children, to you, to me, to everything else. And how many years are we going to have to suffer, or not suffer, but how long is it going to take for people to get back to normal just off of mental issue? And he talks about it in this book. So if anybody's interested, we're going to read this book at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Again, we're going to, if you want to follow along, just follow me and keep following the open debate, man. I love you, buddy. And I was choked when they took you off, but I was choked. So one of the first guys to get you on, but I know you have other people that want to come on. So I'm going to leave right now.
I just want to make one quick point. Like
Can I answer the question?
I'm answering a question. When I lived in Europe, QR codes were commonly used for things like train tickets.
Awesome.
And that was
he was talking about the trace. I'm talking about the trace.
Yeah, and I'm getting
COVID-19.
It
wasn't even when he wrote the book. He wrote the book back in March, April, and then he sold it back in June. He wrote it in March, April. It literally, COVID literally just came out.
Have you looked at the pandemic responses and plans for pre-COVID from different nations around the world?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that like this isn't what we're here to debate.
This
right
is
now.
yeah. This is where it gets
this
very
is stuff
heavy.
that like yeah. Well, this is stuff that's all verifiable. If you want to look into the information, then you can go and read the book, or you can go and look into like pre-COVID, pre-pandemic plans that nations have put out there around the world. But like you're saying, it's been all this stuff has been out there for a long time. like if you want to look into the way that the World Economic Forum or like the United Nations and other like large head figures around the world have been looking into what's going on and what we're dealing with right now. This is just getting into conspiratorial realms of things
Yeah,
because
that's
everybody
where
can
I
argue
don't.
their
I'm
own
not
points
gonna.
and
I'm
stuff.
gonna step away.
I'm gonna give the floor to Awesome Mom though. Let her say whatever she has to say in her piece. Thank you for joining us as well, there, Mark.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers.
So I just wanted to answer your question that you asked us, which was how we might be able to gain some trust within the medical field. And I know me personally, and a lot of other friends I've talked to or people I know, is if they practice a little bit more mix of Western and natural medicine, I think would go a long way with a lot of more people. But I'm gonna hop out. Thank you so much for bringing me in. Have a
Yeah,
good
thank
night.
you for joining us. Have a good night.
All right, bye.
And thank you to Illust as well. He popped out just now. There are a few more people that wanted to hop in, so we will get some more guests in and see what everybody has to say. We'll start one at a time so everyone's not talking over each other. Hey there, Becca. Thanks for joining us on the Open Debate. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm not too bad.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of very interesting things being spoken about tonight, very important topics. And just for like some context, I live in Canada. So one of the biggest things we're dealing with right now is the Ottawa convoy. And I have my beliefs and stuff, but I more so just kind of want to kind of listen into other people's opinions as well. I'm really open-minded. So
Awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. So were you watching the situation tonight unfold?
I've been watching it here and there. Honestly, it's so hard because, like other people have stated, like the media can just be so biased. Um, it can show it such short clips of bigger moments, and contextually, it can take things out of context. So I've been kind of straying a bit away from the media. But yeah, I'll let Hashimoto talk a little bit.
Nah, hi.
Hashimoto, thanks for joining us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. I'm also Canadian and Ontarian,
Hey.
which makes a difference.
Mhm.
Because Ontario seems to have gotten the worst of these mandates. I get it, population and such. Quebec is really bad too. They're actually a little worse than we are. I will admit that. Absolutely, they are. But personally, in my own experience with this whole mandate thing to begin with, is anyone that is afraid or has been told by their doctors they probably shouldn't take it unless you have a really good doctor. You're not getting the exemptions. Your doctor says, well, just lose your job, that's okay. We personally went through that. During it caused, we have mental health issues in my home. Not me personally, but I do take care of other people who have them. We lost one because we couldn't get him a psychiatrist because of COVID. Not because of COVID. That wasn't it. It was because we didn't have access to the care that we should have had.
I'm sorry for
And
your
that's where
loss.
I'll start. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very tough time, and that's what we were speaking about in the previous discussion. And everybody was very open in that discussion. I don't think that everyone had the same opinions, but everybody was very respectful, and I like that. But one thing that we did come to an agreement around is the fact that the open discussion around how many individuals have been affected not only by COVID, but by the measurements that have been put into place and by the government's response to this situation.
Well, yeah, effectively, I don't know whether or not I'm a criminal right now for being unvaccinated. I'm not sure. My husband has a heart condition. He cannot get vaccinated. We don't have any other way out other than lift mandates or leave. And when we tried to leave the province of Ontario, we had to fill out a 4-page form to move to a different province. And then we could get accepted or not. And unless you're moving from one province to another during COVID, no one has any idea that that's even happening.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a very strange time. Especially, you shouldn't have to even feel as though question whether or not you're a criminal. I don't believe that you're a criminal for not having your vaccination, and especially when you hear about the fact that at least 90% of Canadians have had at least one shot. And if you're looking into the situation, right, where how many people do you believe have adverse or side effects where they're not able to get it, or people in general that aren't able to get the shot? How many people do you think that makes up of the Canadian citizenship? And then make
Uh,
up the people that, like, to take away just the
yeah.
people that don't want it, right? It's already such a small amount that don't have it. How many of that do you like? There are a lot of people that don't have it because they're not able to get it, or it's a bad idea to get.
I believe the statistics I read, and I could be wrong. Somebody else might have different ones. But at least the general consensus is about 10% of the population can't be vaccinated for one reason or another. So if we're at 90%, I don't know what he wants to do with the other 10. Like if you start adding the two together, that is 100%. So why push for more is beyond me.
Yeah, I can say from personal experience and just for more context, like I am fully vaccinated, like I have my booster and everything. And having that even, I'm very much so pro-choice and pro-body autonomy. You like what you choose to do, that's on you. That's your own personal informed choice. However, I think one of my biggest struggles, and especially it kind of just right now with everything going on, my issue is people sometimes mistaking freedoms for privileges. Um, you know, it's, I do believe in the mandates in the sense of, we live in a very privileged society where we have the ability to go into a grocery store and buy food and have everything there. We have, food imported from other countries when it's not in season here, and so on and so forth. And um, I think it's sad what's going on in Ottawa because, there are a lot of, I wonder how, these protests are actually going to further affect you know, in importing goods and all that stuff. I wonder how down the line we're going to see issues with this. And and even furthermore, like mandates are for public health measures. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. Um, it's not just about me. Um, I do this for, both of my parents have had cancer, and I'm very thankful that they were both able to get vaccinated. Obviously, they were, again, privileged to have family doctors that they could sit down with and talk with, and were given the okay. And I don't just vaccinate for myself, I vaccinate for, my family. Again, personal choice. I have nieces and nephews that are under the age of 5 who don't have a say in getting vaccinated. Um, so for me, I just I have a big issue with people mistaking freedoms and rights with privileges that we have in our society.
Well, I will
I
interject and give at least just a counter perspective around the
Sure.
idea of freedoms and rights and the way that we live in, like, our society. I do agree that we are a very free and privileged society, but freedom isn't a privilege for sure. Um, but I think that what a lot of people are recognizing and what's happening here is when you look around the world, we can see how free we are in comparison to other countries that are under full tyrannical rule. And we
Yeah.
can see how they're not able to speak up and fight back. And so when we see the government acting in ways that a large percentage of the population deem as authoritarian or overreaching their bounds of control of the citizens, they're exercising their right to do what we actually have, which is the freedom to speak up. Because if you don't do that now, you're not going to be able to do it once we are under tyrannical rule. Whether you believe that it is tyrannical or not, clearly at this point, it's not at the point where it's full authoritarianism and we can't do anything. But if you were just to sit back and not say anything that you saw being wrong, then it could get to a point where you're just not able to say anything at all. And so having the conversation is always a good thing to do. And you like, be peaceful, don't hurt people, but to voice your opinion when you believe that the government is overreaching their rule is something that you should do if you are a free nation. And then it comes down to the debate around how much oversight should the government have. Like you said, you have young nieces and nephews, I believe, that don't have a choice whether they get the shot. You should have a choice, regardless of who you are. That's still a human being.
Yeah, and for me, I think that's what scared me the most is it was freedom of choice until I heard he wants more numbers. Like we reached that 70%, 75% goal he wanted. We put our masks on, we distanced, we washed our hands, and good on us because we should have. Absolutely, I agree with those things. But when it came down to 2 years later that you had to make a choice between feeding your family or getting a vaccine that may or may not help you and could possibly harm you, you're between a rock and a hard place at that point. And it feels as if your freedom of choice is then taken because you're given an impossible choice.
Yeah, those are like, this is why I love this conversation. Those are really good points, and I like hearing everyone's point of view. I mean, I guess for me, I just I this I guess it's the issue of, man, like there are different jobs and areas where it's mandated that, if you want to work with children, you have to have a criminal record check. And if you don't have that criminal record check, you don't have the ability to work in that field. I get that these mandates are on a much larger scale, but I think just in general, like mandated, like these things aren't new. And I can say I don't know like about other provinces. I live on the East Coast, but like I still have the ability, like I don't get, people don't look at my Vax Pass at the grocery store or anything like that. I still have the ability to do that. I can go into several stores. I mean, I worked in the serving industry and like debatably we were hit the hardest. I went through 3 lockdowns and every other week not knowing if my job was still going to be there. I mean, that was insane, but I have the right to work, but I don't have the right to work anywhere that I want to. And I
No, and I
it's the
don't think
difference.
that
Like
was the
you
point.
can
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
Um, and I think that's probably part of the issue is because we have done a lot of these mandates province by province. They're very, very different. I can't even volunteer. I can't get a Tim Hortons job. I might be able to get an under the table job by some shady guy that's going to give me half of what I'm worth. And that is the only way I can put food on the table right now. Because in Ontario, even though it's not mandated, it got so bad that the companies have made this policy. And it is really hard pressed to find a company in Ontario that will give you a job unvaccinated. Now,
Yeah,
that may not be true everywhere.
I just want to say that, like, yeah, I agree with what you're both saying, that yes, that what you are going through on the East Coast doesn't seem to be affecting you very much, but given you are completely vaccinated. But like you said, you don't have to show your passport anywhere or anything like that. And then once again, here in Ontario, I can speak for that. It is very difficult. A lot of independent jobs, independent companies have implemented vaccine mandates just through provincial, because provincial mandates have been around a lot longer than any federal mandate. So this has been going on for a very long time. So they've just become complacent in what they believe is going on, and then when they are given counter information, half the time they haven't even seen that there aren't mandates in place. So it's a strange situation. But then if you look into Quebec, they quite literally have had to show vaccine passports in order to go into Walmarts. And so I understand that when it's not fully affecting you that much, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you look at the most extreme cases of what's happening to your fellow Canadian citizens, doesn't that concern you at all?
That is concerning. I didn't know that other provinces were having people have to scan a QR code to go into Walmart. I definitely don't agree with that. Um, I think, yeah, it's easy to be on the East Coast and have my experience and not see what's going on in other parts of Canada. Um, but this is also my question of, it even goes back to these protests. Mandates are regulated at a provincial level. So I'm all about being informed and if you want to protest, that is your right, and I totally support that. But I just wish people were more informed of where to go to actually make these changes. To go to your
I will
MPs
completely agree with you on that
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
The movement was a great idea. The execution wasn't wonderful because they angered the beast, which is economy. Um, you can't shut down economy and expect to be a hero. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Um, I wish they had been able to separate the difference between what happened in Ottawa and what happened on the borders. I think honestly, to me, they're two separate peoples. They were two types. The people who went to Ottawa went to their Parliament Hill, where the Ontario Premier is and where our federal leader is, who is about the only one who can tell our provincial leader what to do, because they were out of options. They had nowhere else to go but to go to their capital and plead in the best way possible to please just listen to us, just have a conversation, just try to understand. And unfortunately, it blew up from there.
I agree. I will just add that I feel as though it was not just people in Ontario, it's Canadians like citizens from all across Canada, different provinces coming to the capital of Canada, which is in Ottawa, because I see people saying the premier's in Toronto. Yes, the premiers who would be changing mandates for the province of Ontario, but it began with mandates for the provincial or for the federal borders, and then quickly changed to mandates for all provinces because the grievances of all Canadians came out very quickly when people said, we want to protest against these federal mandates against traveling in the borders. People in every province said, yeah, we do as well for these mandates that are happening. But the question is, right, what, like, do you believe that the mandates are something that are put in place to help? Right, and so people, I just feel as though that's where the conflict comes from, and that's where the debate needs to be had because that's where it stems from. There's a side that believes this is put into place and this will help, um, and there's another side that says I do not believe that these being in place will help whatsoever.
See, I believe putting the mandates in place will help, and they did. They did. But our goalpost was 75%. And when you keep moving that goal line on us, and then we get to a point where there's nobody left to vaccinate except for the sick people that could possibly not make it, that's where people kind of stopped and went, well, wait a second. How
Bring
is
one
this
more
even
person in
going
to
to be
talk with us.
achievable?
Okay, Jax, thanks for joining us on the open debate. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Not too bad. Thanks for joining the chat here.
Yeah. I'll let the other lady there finish what she was saying before I joined in.
I think I was done. I got distracted.
Sorry, Hashimoto.
It's okay.
I just want to add that I'm also from Ontario, actually quite close to Ottawa here myself. So definitely have some strong opinions on the mandates and whatnot. I've actually been to Ottawa myself. The second weekend it was in, because I am double vaxxed myself, and I was watching mainstream media, and I just things weren't really connecting for myself, so I held it down just to kind of see it for myself. Which honestly, at the end, I really urged everyone to do because what was seen on the streets was very different than how the media had portrayed it. Quite shockingly different, actually. Um,
And yeah, so I've heard that from a few other people that what drove them to go down was the media's portrayal and how they didn't feel as though this would be happening in Canada. And once they got there, their perspective was completely different than what was being portrayed on the media. So when you got there, what did you find? What was your experience? What did you see? And how did your day go?
well, unity, honestly, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are gonna cry against that, but honestly, I haven't felt um, that much unity since I guess before the pandemic. There's been so much division and opposing opinions, but when I was down there, just nobody really cared if you were vaxxed or unvaxxed. I myself, as I said, like I'm double vaxxed, and nobody cared. It was more just about freedom of choice and people finally coming together. And there was this sense of urgency, and I think people are just scared on all sides. You have people on the opposing side of the convoy that are terrified. You have people on the convoy side. We're all scared. We don't know what's going on. The pandemic is something that none of us have lived through until now. We're doing this together, and going down there, just for once, people just stand arm in arm. And I mean, personally, myself, I won't speak on what other people have seen, but I myself did not see one bit of hate or any sort of that rhetoric of racism or anything. Like it was just, so it took me off guard when I went down. And I will add as well as I was actually quite lucky to be able to stay at my friend who actually lives on Laurier, which is 2 blocks from Parliament. And I got to have a nice chat with multiple, I had to say about 50 people in her building. And again, not one person I personally spoke to, you know, had anything negative to say. I was up in her apartment facing, like, I could look at her balcony and see the convoy. And I mean, it was a Saturday night I went, so it was quite loud. But once inside, we didn't actually hear anything. And it's interesting. I guess all the perspectives on the situation, it comes down to that, right? It's everyone's individual perspective on kind of what happened. So I'm definitely, it's the whole thing has just been eye opening, I guess.
Yeah,
that's really good.
and again, like I'm speaking from someone who's not in Ontario, but I think it's definitely all perspective because I have, again, I've not been there, but I've definitely seen the live streams and the videos that people have posted of violent things happening. And I mean, yeah, those are the bad apples that are going to be there. That's like any protest. Some people are going to take advantage
What
of
did you
it to
see?
I saw
Sorry to cut you off, by the way.
no, that's okay. I saw several videos of people who were walking down the streets with signs that I don't know exactly what they read, but they were stating that they were counter protesters, like saying vaccines are good, mandates are good. I saw videos of people pulling their signs out of their hand and breaking them, ripping them up. I saw two people in a video spit on reporters. Saw another reporter get pushed down. People who walk on the streets who have their masks on, people are harassing them about why they're wearing their masks. Again, I'm pro-choice. You do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, it's very clear that this protest started on the heels of white supremacists and like you see the flags that were flying, they might not be there anymore, and that's great. I've heard from people as well that like now current day it's actually a lot more peaceful than when it started, but like I just I don't I can't get behind something that started based on that morally I just can't get behind that.
And I just want to
I
add that I
think that
definitely,
that's.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just gonna say, I think that that's a lot of media framing. Um, I, I'm not never going to disagree and say that those videos don't exist. I haven't been able to find any videos of something like that happening. I followed you and stuff, so if you have like links or can show me where to find them, just send me like some information after, because I want to be able to check them out.
Yeah, definitely. I think I liked most of the posts to save them, but I will try to send them
Sure.
to you.
Okay, and then, but when it comes to the idea of the media's portrayal of it being a white supremacist event with Nazi flags and Confederate flags flying. First of all, the Confederate flag was flying. There was literally flags from every country. If Confederates want to be there, I don't know. That's a whole other debate whether or not you want to hold true to the Confederacy and yada yada yada. You think that's racist? But there was one flag with a Nazi symbol on it that is being reported that the individual was going around asking philosophical questions around if you wanted this to be canned or not. I can't say if that's true. I can't speak for that. But what I can speak for is that I've seen anti-protesters with Nazi symbols on their signs that they've went out and made. It's the same sort of framing. You can take one terrible thing from either side of the coin and say that these individuals make up that group. But when you look at, I don't know, because you said that you watch live streams as well. When you listen to individuals that are speaking on the ground, I couldn't find one person that was hateful, that was other than towards Trudeau. They were not happy with Trudeau, but other than that, not towards any individual person.
I think
But I'm willing
probably
to. I'm willing to. Sorry, I was just gonna say, but I'm willing to listen and find, see the videos that you have and everything like that.
I think the biggest problem is some of the quote unquote leaders were connected to other things. I don't know exactly what they are, but they were connected. Even the people that are on the ground now felt abandoned by them. But the majority of the people who followed were because they wanted freedom of choice. That was what started it. Um, Unfortunately, there was a couple bad characters, and there's probably still a few bad characters in the mix. I think you're going to find that in any group. There's nothing you can do to get away from it. However, the videos I did see of the Confederate flag and the Nazi flag were the clips that another protester asked them to leave. So yeah, there video of some guy running around with a Nazi flag, absolutely. But he was also asked to leave and asked to not be a part of it because they did not. Their biggest fear down there, once they got down there and more organized, was to be construed as anything but freedom of choice. And that's what they were fighting for.
And I will just add as well, it is that whole, there's extremists on both sides, right? So myself, there was, when I went in my own town here, there's, we have our own minor little convoys, and, everybody's been respectful. And, if we do a drive through, it's nothing but right lane, hazards on, we let people pass, let people into traffic. And then yet you have the counter protesters on the side screaming that anti-vaxxers should die, throwing things at our vehicles. It's quite violent and terrifying, actually, seeing the hate come from that side when, like when I'm seeing from the convoy and the pro-protest, I guess I should say, side as being nothing but peaceful from my own perspective, right? And then you see down in Ottawa, the counter protesters also had signs like "Gas the Unvaxxed." Like there's so much extreme on both sides, and I'm not going to sit there and, you know, group the entire counter protest as these extremists that want to gas all the unvaccinated. So I would hope that it wouldn't go on both ways. And I'm not going to deny that, yeah, there is some parts of the organizers that are just disgusting. I won't even deny that. I've done my research on, there was a gentleman actually on TikTok that did a whole flow chart of showing the connections of the organizers and what groups they stand with. And some of it is disgusting. But I think when you look at the majority of the people that went to the convoy, I myself had a extreme heart to heart with 5 good truckers that were there, and they were just purely talking about how they were fighting the mandates, for their children. This was for their grandkids and wanting to grow up in a Canada that we once grew up in, not about race or, a white nationalist movement. It was purely people that just want their children to grow up in a society that they once did.
Yeah, that's the feeling that I got. I don't know how it started, but I do know that a lot of the people that ended up supporting we're on the pure. We want freedom. We want our Canada back. We made a government for the people by the people, and it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. The people don't feel heard.
You know, for myself, I have 3 kids, young kids. When my son comes home, you know, and he gets off the bus and a friend tries to hug him, and you know, he immediately panics, and you know, he says, "Mommy, I don't want to catch something that will make you die." That's where I draw the line. You know, where my son's hands are bleeding every day from the overwashing, or I drop him off at school and the teacher's dressed more with protective PPE than an ICU nurse. My youngest son being developmentally delayed now, he's 2. And then hearing, you know, from the doctors that this is a huge problem with the children his age right now, that they're all developmentally delayed due to the mandates. Myself waiting surgery, and I'm on the phone getting my pre-surgical questions done, and I ask, you know, if I'm getting my questions now, does that mean my surgery will be sooner? And they tell me no. And I go, well, why not? Well, it's the Ontario mandate right now through the government. Even though the hospital is completely dead, they even told me it's ridiculous. I have a friend waiting heart surgery. My other friend's mom had not diagnosed, her cancer diagnosis got delayed because of these mandates. Yet my hospital, it doesn't have any cases. I have another friend that works as a registered nurse and has said the entire time it's ridiculous. You know, our hospitals aren't being overrun, at least here in my own city. I can't speak on other cities, but when, as a general rule, that they're canceling these surgeries, and it's ridiculous in my mind. I don't know.
I have to agree.
Yeah, and
COVID
I
did
actually,
do a
my
big
sister's actually,
disservice to the
oh,
healthcare. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay. My sister is actually a registered nurse as well, so I'm very thankful that I get a lot of insight too. And she's actually extremely like pro-choice, do whatever you want to do. But I think at the end of the day too, these mandates aren't for the person, they're for the public, they're for the majority, they're for the healthcare system. There were points like where I live, there's 10 ICU beds, and at one point they were overflowing into other units. And I know we're in a much better place now, but still the majority of people going into those ICUs are unvaxxed. That's just fact, at least here. And I think
I have to interject just a little bit and pose the question because I'd like to know your answer.
Mhm.
We keep having this argument that you have to get it's mandated, it's for the public health of others. So the argument that you getting a vaccine, how is this going to help somebody else? It's going to help them because then our ICUs won't be overcrowded, and then the hospital workers won't be so overwhelmed. And then there's other stories of individuals saying that the hospital systems aren't overwhelmed. But as we've seen since at least 2011, at least here in Ontario, I can't speak for everywhere in Canada, we've had an absolutely unbelievable healthcare system, an issue with the healthcare system. We have less ICU beds now than we did in 2020.
Yes.
And so why is the attention not being put onto the healthcare system and getting more funding for ICUs and expanding those hospitals? We haven't built one new hospital since COVID started.
Oh, I agree. That's like a huge systematic failure. And that's kind of the big issue, is that none of our hospitals can house people getting sick. So how do we fix that? We need to invest into our healthcare system. I mean, we have universal healthcare, but apparently our eyes and our teeth aren't part of healthcare. Like, it's completely broken. And you know, I am like, I'm over it too. I want mandates to be lifted, but I don't know. I think a lot about the people that are around me, and it just makes me nervous to, you know, go back to the way things were too quick, I guess.
Understandably, and I feel that, and I think that the thing that we're trying to have, like the discussion that we're having here, is showing that everybody isn't like nobody is like everybody has the same concerns. It's about what they believe are the right options to get there. So no, like people are worried about the health and safety of the Canadian citizens, whether you're thinking that the mandate should be lifted or you don't think the mandate should be lifted. in the same sense, like we just said, they didn't build one hospital. If you need more ICU rooms, why not put some funding into that? Why would they waste money on making forcing businesses, or I don't even know how they did it. Like every single person within a week had safety distance stickers on their floor and one way decals every single place. Everybody had official government stickers up on their windows saying this is how you deal with COVID and stuff. Like, why would we need to spend all that money into that when everybody knows? Like, let's actually put it into something that's going to help. But that's just one. It's just like a small. Like, that's not a real issue. That's just like, hey, why didn't we do this? It's just a debate. Why aren't we talking about things that could have helped? Versus, why did we virtue signal? Virtue signaling is never going to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
Yeah.
true.
And I also think that we should maybe separate the difference between a vaccine mandate, a mask mandate, and a social distancing mandate, because they really are three separate issues. And you have people who believe in some of the mandates, not all of the mandates, or believe that the mandates, like the vaccine, up to the 75%, we were good with that. Um, I think a lot of people would even compromise and say, okay, if you say we've hit that goal marker with that one, we'd probably be okay with mask and social distancing for a while. I think a lot of us are scared. We do realize it's real, but at the same time, we do have to start going back to our old lives, and the government needs to stop moving the goalposts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's none of us, like, that's why we're just talking. None of us have the answers, and we're trying to figure it out. We're just like, and that's the whole point. I came on to discuss, to figure out how Canadians were feeling tonight, and we don't have to stick to any one topic. It's just interesting that when we have these conversations, it's about finding out what individual Canadians feel, because we all feel a little bit different, and when we have conversations like this, you realize that when you don't feel the same as somebody on some fundamental levels, you may agree on some others, and you don't have to agree on everything for the world to work. If we agreed on everything, it would be it would be super strange. It would be a strange world. We wouldn't progress anywhere. We'd just be stuck in a rut.
I mean, I guess I felt that until the Emergency Act just got passed, and your bank account could be frozen.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yep. Oh.
But I think from my understanding, wasn't it with, and I could be wrong on this, but I thought I heard like the frozen accounts was only those people who made donations under, was it aliases or something like that? Like maybe I need more info on that.
I honestly don't have any information on that at all. It's all conjecture. I've heard anywhere between it's not happening at all from the police to there's 746 frozen accounts right now. And I think the worst part about it is the day that they released that it was TD Bank that was allowing this to happen, just about every TD Bank holder got a scam alert saying that their bank account was frozen. I was one of those people who I got an email or I got a little message that looked absolutely legit. It looked exactly the same as a fraud message that I would get from my TD Bank that said I had been frozen and I had to go into my account. I transferred money from one account to another to double check and went, oh, okay, it's nothing but a scam. But you've got these other people that don't always think that way. They panic. They think it's real. They run into the bank afterwards. You don't always hear about the people that, oh, I messed up. You only hear about the time when they say, oh, my bank is frozen. I think it's going to be really impossible to even tell what's true and what isn't for a very long time, because we do have such a difference between what our media is telling us and what's really happening, unfortunately.
As well, too, as I'm pretty sure it was the finance minister did put out a statement that anyone that supported the convoy in any way should be concerned at this point. There has been some information, again, not sure the truth around it, but a single mother in BC supposedly had donated $50. And apparently her bank account's frozen. But again, I'm not going to believe everything I read on the internet, but I will go off what the finance minister did say, that everyone should be concerned if you did support it.
And during the discussion today in Parliament, they did bring up the fact that there was, I'm not going to state the exact number, but there are a number of accounts that are under investigation, and they had requested that no further accounts be investigated. So there are, like, it was a few hundred, but I'm not going to give the exact numbers. I can't remember, but there are accounts that are being investigated as we speak, and they were more than likely going to be looking into more.
And they also changed the timeline as well, because it was basically people who had possibly donated at the beginning of the convoy, and then they moved it to anyone that donated after the 15th. There's a lot of misinformation and confusion around the topic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It's yeah. And that's the thing, right? I like having these conversations because the more that, like, media likes to keep individual citizens divided, and the more that you talk, the more you realize that half of what you're hearing, it comes from some shred of truth, but there's just more to it. It's never black and white.
Exactly.
Yeah. One thing that I will state about this entire protest situation is it did give a glimmer of hope into the way that life could move back into some amount of normalcy, or however you want to call it, normalcy. Like you said, if your son is feeling strange about hugging his friend because he doesn't want to get you sick, this was a very good. There were so many children there, which I think really will shine through in their upbringing, so that, like, they have at least this experience to know what it feels like to live normally. But I will say that the moment I got there, I'm just a black guy with dreads. You know, if I had no expectations. Everybody, if they were racist, they could have all just started throwing rocks at me or something once I got there. Like, I went by myself, just showed up, and the moment I got there, it was just, people ask, do you think that we'll ever get back to feeling normal, to ever feeling the way that we did before all of this started, because of how afraid we are and how panicked people become? The moment you get around a large group of people that are living life normally, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders and I was in reality again. People that I didn't know coming up to me, giving me hugs, like people talking to you close on, like, because you're yelling, it's a party situation. And you know, at least, perhaps it wasn't the smartest thing to do, but in retrospect, well over 1 million people have come and gone from Ottawa within the last month, and we are not seeing a rise in numbers as we should if this was a very bad situation right now. And there was not one truck that was abandoned in the streets of Ottawa due to someone becoming sick, and those individuals were there for the entire month with all of those people coming and going. It was a very strange situation. We can look at and see what happens in the coming weeks. But as it stands right now, over 1 million people came together, lived life normally in close range, and are doing absolutely fine. It had no impact on our society.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was actually talking to my husband about that. Just, the numbers, not at this point, not increasing. We'll have to wait and see how the next few weeks go. But it definitely was a glimmer of our old normal, I guess we should call it. It was euphoric.
And I think that should make people happy. Like, people shouldn't be upset that no one's getting sick and that people came together and that they're not sick because they weren't wearing masks. And half of the people, more than half, I'd say the majority of people that I spoke to were vaccinated. So it also shows that perhaps the vaccinations are working. People should be happy that this has happened.
Yeah, that's
At
true.
least for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's become political. So if seeing the end of things, like, without the government say, is shown as a sign of not being in line with liberal values, and it's become a political issue, which it shouldn't be, in my opinion.
Well, I think too that there's been a lot of liberals jump ship. Just because the liberal value is really about to love everybody, or at least that's what I thought it was. I voted liberal. I voted conservative. I have voted NDP. I have voted for them all. I am a Canadian. I don't follow a party. I follow a good leader at the time. And I think more people need to do that if you don't already. But I think there was a lot of liberals that have watched in absolute horror of what have I done, because seeing someone attack someone that you voted for, attack somebody else for a religious belief or how they live their lives, just the way he has presented himself in Parliament in the last week is disgusting.
I don't understand why in Parliament that nobody answers questions either. That's new to me because I never really followed politics. But of course, with everything kind of going on, I was heavily influenced to do so. And, you see in the House of Commons questions asked, and nobody ever answers the question. It's just deferred. I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, where's the accountability?
It's the art of debate.
I guess so, but nothing's answered. It's very frustrating.
No, they just want to push forth the narrative that they want you to believe, and
Yeah.
they only have a certain amount of time that they're able to speak, and so rather than address the question that the framing, they don't want to address a question and allow you to create the framing or the narrative that is in place. So rather than addressing what you're saying and allowing your worldview to ring true, they don't even accept that your worldview is true and just go on to tell you what they believe.
Okay. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense.
And it goes right, that's true in politics, from your prime minister all the way down to the president of your local co-op that only has 85 members underneath them. It is. I've been a president of a co-op. It is the same. Now different levels of government have more heart. The lower down you go, the more heart you will find. And there's also this weird level of politics that you cannot breach without becoming elite.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long you've lived somewhere, how great of a volunteer you've been. If you're not a part of the elite and you've been that hard worker who wants to get into city council because you're a hard worker for your hard workers, you're not getting in. They won't talk to you. They won't luncheon with you. They won't give you the time of day. They will not open the doors.
Yeah, I can see that. Like a big club.
It is a club, and I hate to say it, it is a club. I have done politics.
It 100%
in
is
my
a club.
life. And I was passionate about it because my country was for the people, by the people, and even lowly me could be a somebody and talk for these people. And that dream was shattered by 28, because that's about the time I realized I was never getting up there. I was going to stay as a lowly cooperative housing political partner, and that would be about it. And about the closest I would ever get would be chasing them down at Parliament Hill protesting about, please give us more housing, and that was about the best I could do.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've heard that from a few people, that once they've gotten into politics in order to try to change things, they've realized the amount of red tape there is and the difficulty around actually enacting real change, even at a small level. There are some other people that want to hop in, but before we go, you guys have all been super respectful, so I am going to take a quick break, but I'm going to give the floor to all of you and unfiltered. I'm going to start with actually I'm going to start with K-Jax, and then we'll work our way down and end with Becca, and you can all just have the floor to say whatever's on your mind for final thoughts and how you're feeling, and just whatever you'd like.
All right. Well, I guess, my message would just be for everybody to just step outside the box, try to see it from everyone's perspective. Not everyone on the other side is evil, or even what the media tries to portray them. And that goes on both sides. I think everyone's driven by fear and uncertainty. And unfortunately, our country is in shambles right now. And it's very easy to point the fingers and blame, but everybody's living their own story. We're walking our own path, and what affects me may not affect somebody else. And these mandates have been absolutely detrimental to some people's lives. And for others, you know, maybe they've had family members saved. So it's always trying to step back and just try to see it from someone else's perspective, and remember that we're all Canadian and we're just trying to figure this out. And hopefully one day there won't be such a divide.
Oh, final thoughts. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Emergency Act is a bad thing. It's definitely scary. I don't think at any point anybody who thought that they wanted freedom was thinking that this was going to be the end game. Regardless of what side you're on, I don't think anybody wanted this. And I don't think anybody wanted to push beliefs on anybody else. They just wanted to be free to live and let live.
So
And
true.
and I guess to mirror what you say, K-Jax, is just sit down with somebody from the other side and listen to their story, because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know why they believe or don't believe in a mandate or anything that's going on right now. And to be able to sit down and have that conversation with somebody, you might be enlightened. You might learn something. And I think really we need that now more than ever, is to be able to sit down and listen to each other.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say, but I'm really glad I came on here. I didn't have any expectations. I just literally just wanted to talk with people. Everyone has their point of views, and I never want to negate anyone's experience because everyone's experience is super valid. My biggest thing would just be like kind of the beauty of a democracy is that we have the vote. So I think the biggest thing is just take your right to vote and vote for change if that's what you want, um, and use those rights, and you know vote. And again, like if you don't vote, you're still voting. So just if you want things to change, then yeah, again, speak up and vote. That's my biggest thing. But thank you to everyone. You ladies were wonderful, and thank you for hosting this. I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out. Yeah, you guys were all great. Thank you very much for coming out.
Take care.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good conversations this evening. We will get to anybody else who'd like to come in. We got another guest here, and if you like to speak about anything, we're going to be going for a little bit longer this evening, so come in and speak. Michael, thanks for joining us on the Open Debate. How are you doing tonight?
To be honest with you, my heart is aching. My heart is hurting. And I speak from a law enforcement capacity in that community. I don't care if who I offend right now, but I got to be heard, and I want my voice to be heard for everybody in this room. I spent 20 and 30 years in various positions, seeing the good and the bad in society. And I have watched mainstream media and non-mainstream media fighting each other. And the truth, a lot more truth seems to be coming out of non-mainstream media. I see hate. I see fear. I see division. I see people standing up because their backs are against the wall. And I got to tell you something. I'm sorry. I'm kind of upset over this shit, man.
You're
You
okay.
know, I worked my entire life trying to help people. I'm going to tell something. This is a message from the law enforcement community and the nursing community, fire, EMS, policing. I don't care what position, special constables, dispatchers, EMS, fire. You liberals out there, you better wake the fuck up and snap to. Because I'm telling you right now, and I'm sorry for swearing, but I'm angry and my heart is hurting.
Speak freely.
A lot of us are fucking leaving. We are collapsing our pension monies because we're tired of the bullshit of the people out in society that have their heads up their ass. People don't think, they don't You know, you've got people that actually voted for Trudeau because of his hairstyle or because he was good looking or because he legalized weed. If that is the hallmark, if that is the reason, the primary reason why you voted for a politician, and you know what? I'm a conservative primarily, and I'm not a fan of Ford. Ford is fucked up big time as well. He ain't fucking innocent of anything that he's done wrong. But these politicians, these idiots from all these backgrounds have divided us. They have played on our fears. They have pulled the race card. They have called people with their backs against the wall terrorists, misogynists, anti-vaxxers, anti-science, and what was the other stupid thing that he said?
Anything under the book.
This guy uses every term in the book to get his agendas across. And this is how the system, and I mean the system from the oligarchs to the elitists to the politicians, this is how they use manipulation and fear to control society. When they are caught in corruption, they don't answer questions. They lie. They try to cover it up. They silence people. They try to pass bills for censorship. And this rabbit hole that we are all facing in this country is deep and it's dark and it's fucking disgusting. You know, I left my line of work for many reasons, some personal, some medical, partially because I got fed up with all the bullshit and all the lies and all the extremist thing, get vaccinated, get vaccinated, get vaccinated. You know what? I'm not anti-vax, but for several reasons, I don't want this one. And one of those reasons, I'll tell you right now, I've heard a lot of horror stories. I've talked to a lot of people. I've seen a lot of horror stories. And one of my good friends, who's a school teacher about 30 years that I've known, she told me that after various vaxes and boosters, 10 of her fucking friends are dead. 10 of her fucking friends are fucking dead. What don't you extreme vaccinated people get? What don't you understand? What don't you fucking comprehend? When doctors disagree with doctors, we have a problem. We have a systemic failure of the system. And I don't care if Trudeau is going to sit there and try to spew out that everybody needs to get vaccinated. You know what? No government, no human being has the right to force, bribe, coerce any other human being to get a shot they don't want. I was even told by my own family doctor, who's now on maternity leave, and she said, quote, "We do not have enough long-term data. Be careful, and if you don't want it, I'm not going to push it on you." The last visit I had with my replacement doctor, after I told her about all the horror stories, including this recent friend's information, she told me the following: "We are all fed up. We are all being threatened by the Ontario College of Physicians and Surgeons, but many are speaking up." I'm not anti-vax. I want to make that clear. But when you also turn around and you're heard and you're told by a doctor, and she tells you to your face that the level of mental health that they're facing, the level of health issues that they're seeing now is unprecedented. It's unfucking precedented. You close down gyms and you discriminate from people that don't want the shot. We all know that going to the gym and working out has vast positive health effects. Vast positive health effects. And you know what? I've been in so many fucking arguments with extreme leftists. Oh, prove it to me that it has health effects. Fuck off. I'm sorry, but you know what? Fuck off. If you are pro lockdown, if you are pro mandate, if you are pro passports and QR codes, you're signing your own demise. Don't go to a hospital and bitch about wait times or not getting proper service because amazing, amazing nurses have been fucking let go or asked to leave because of a personal medical choice. I you know what, I could say a lot more. I could say a lot
Yeah.
more.
Well, I'll keep you in for the conversation. I'll bring Dusty in and we can all have a good conversation together. Dusty, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. How are you?
Not too bad. Just discussing everything that's going on, how we're feeling as Canadians tonight. If you're not Canadian, it's just how you're feeling about if you're witnessing things. And the floor is yours. How are you feeling?
I'm born and raised in this country, and I cannot believe what has just happened today. Never thought I'd see the day that our country turns its back on any of its citizens. I just, when it comes to the Emergencies Act being voted in, I don't understand how they can make it a non-confidence vote to be placed on such an important piece of legislation where it should just stand alone and let people vote on it, on what they're voting on. Most of these politicians don't want to go to an election, so putting a non-confidence on it just ties their hands the same way we've all been tied for the last 2 years.
I'm just going to stop you real quick.
Yep.
The last guest had just said, once again, this has happened, that this dude was flagged for unauthentic speech or something along that line. If there's anyone in the chat here that has decided that they felt the need to report somebody for speaking their mind and telling their story, this isn't the platform for you, and you can gladly leave. I'm not going to stop you from participating or speaking your mind in the chat, but if I find that people are actively going and false reporting people, I'm not going to keep you around in this area. This isn't a place for people who are closed-minded and don't want open debate. The title is literally The Open Debate. If you don't want to hear opinions that you disagree with, go. Get out. Go somewhere else and continue to live in your echo chamber, and you won't advance. You won't grow. You won't be progressive. You will continue to regress and live in your racist world. But this is not a place for... it doesn't matter what you say. Literally, this is a platform for individuals to come on and speak their mind, regardless of if you agree. If you disagree, there's a co-host button down below. You can come on and disagree all you want, but don't shut down people's speech. It's literally, I can't, I don't know, it makes absolutely no sense why you would come to a debate stream and do anything like that. It just those types of people can just leave, just get out. I'm not gonna sit here and get super aggressive, super angry, super emotional, but everybody in the chat, if you point the people out, then go ahead and point the people out. And if somebody's in there, like, I say it in other people's streams as well. You just don't report people. You disagree with what they're saying, say it, state it, speak your mind. If it really pisses you off, get the fuck out. Go.
I
But yeah,
100% agree with
Dusty.
you on that one. I don't understand. I know it's off my trail of thought, but I 100% agree with you on that one. I don't understand why people feel the need to silence people they disagree with. I listen to a lot of people I disagree with, and I think it helps me grow and see a point of view that I didn't consider before. It's the way debate should be. Anyhow, back onto the Emergencies Act, if I may continue.
Yeah.
The severity that this act can cause damage to our country should have never been a non-confidence vote. The Prime Minister should never have the power to put the most draconian of laws that we have as a vote to go to another election. Nobody wants an election. We just came out of one and nothing was solved. It was a waste of money. Yet he's gonna, every time that he puts something forward that people don't, that have very mixed emotions on, or just outright don't agree with his government on, he puts it to a non confidence trying to force an election, or you have to agree with him. And I'm getting tired of him doing that because this act gives the government the power to seize bank accounts. And anybody who says, oh, only if you donated to the truckers, then you're kidding yourself. If you donated to anything that they feel was out of line and they want to deem it I'm trying to think of the word, a misstep against the government, I guess would be the nicest way of saying it, they can go after you. This law doesn't just stop at the convoy, it can extend to every citizen in every province. This is not something that you put a non confidence vote to. This is something that should have stood alone. Many MPs came out today and said they would not be voting for this act except the fact that they do not want to go to an election. One of the major parties doesn't even have a current leader, and he's trying to pull this again, trying to get us back into an election mode, or we let him do as he pleases with unfettered restriction.
I see
And
someone in the chat. I see someone in the chat repeatedly making comments, and someone had said, I saw this, a very good statement, that when you're repeatedly stating the same thing in the chat, it shows that you really want to be heard and you want me to see it and say something. But you can always co-host if you're not able to. I will point this out because I keep saying misinformation, so much misinformation being spread. It depends on what you want to say. Right now, what he's saying, if you are looking at it in the framing of, does this emergency act imply to what he's saying right now? No, they're not just going to go after anybody that they deem doing something wrong against the government at this point. What he's saying, at least in my opinion, he can correct himself if I am not correct, that this sets the precedent for how easy it is for the government to say, I deem this action incorrect, and therefore now I have the power to go after you. Look at what we've done before. If we did it for this cause, why can we not do it for this? This is much worse than a street party.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're going to do it tomorrow, but it gives them that precedent. We are at the point where if the government decides that you are a terrorist or such, that they can invoke this act and use it against you if you have disrupted life in not even the entire country. Yes, Ottawa was disrupted and the borders were disrupted. Now, I don't agree with closing the borders. I've never agreed with what those people did. I think there was a better way that they could have gone about that portion of their protest. But when it came to Ottawa, all I ever saw was very peaceful people having a party and enjoying freedom. I didn't see anything that rose to the level of a national emergency or a threat to Canada, which is what this act is supposed to be used to help prevent. Um, everyone prior to the convoy, they always said, don't protest hospitals, don't protest here, don't protest there. If you've got a problem with the politicians, you take it to the politicians' doorsteps. That's Parliament. That's where they took this protest. They took it right down to the Parliament Hill and they protested in front of government. They didn't do it in the suburbs of Ottawa. They didn't destroy the city. Heck, I've never seen a bouncy castle as being, threatening. A little levity there because I liked watching those videos. But this stuff that was going on in Ottawa was extremely peaceful from everything I saw. And it didn't threaten our country. What it did threaten was it threatened the power that our current government has over its people. Because everyone in Canada watching a bunch of people not obeying them, not doing as they've been mandated to do, enjoying freedom, enjoying life, and enjoying the company of others was a threat to what they were trying to do. And I don't want to start going off on conspiracies of overreach and everything else, but it went against what the government was doing, and they didn't want it. Now we have the Emergencies Act invoked over protest. The precedent of a is so low on this now that sure you may agree with the liberals, but next year, the year after, or the next election, it may not be the liberals that are in power anymore, and the precedent has been set. And someone once said, if you don't want your enemies to have a certain power, you definitely don't want to give it to your friends. And
It's a good one.
if we don't want, I don't care if you're liberal, conservative, whatever, if you don't want the opposition parties to have the kind of power that is being wielded, then you should not want the current government to have it either. Because no matter what, eventually the government will change and this will stay.
Got Guzaki coming into the chat to join us. Thanks for joining us on the open debate. How you doing tonight?
Not bad, guys. How are you?
Not bad.
Good. How are you?
Not bad. See, this is where I disagree. I do agree with them to a certain point blocking the borders because it's the only way that we were going to wake up the government to show them, listen, we've lost so much, so much. People have lost their homes, people have lost their jobs and everything, and people have lost their money, like big time money. So when we cut the border off, it is to show them that, listen, you hurt us, we can hurt you too. Do I agree they should have completely shut it down? No. They should have done it like a normal protest. Every 15 minutes, you let so many vehicles go through, then you block it off. But again, I'm on the fence with that because we had to hit them where it hurt. And that's where their financial is. It's the automotive, all the other industries. We've been doing it for 2 years. They've only had to do it for 2 days, 2 weeks. Like we've heard a lot more than what we've hurt them already, and it's not right. Um, Justin Trudeau should be taken out of office. Like, I don't agree with a lot of stuff he's saying, calling us racist, calling us terrorists. Because last time I checked, terrorists don't sit around hugging each other, like, and talking and singing and bringing kids and stuff like that. And sir, for you being as a police officer, I respect you. I just have one question.
I'm not. I'm not the police officer. It was the guy before me.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
then he's not here, so
He's
I
still
just
in the chat though, I believe.
okay. I don't understand. How can the cops sit there? They disagree with it. Why don't they just stand up and walk away? It's you have a choice. I understand you have family. I have a family. I'm a single father with an autistic child, and I'm not vaccinated because my son has major health issues. I have major health issues, but I'm confined. I can't do anything. I'm also in Canada. I'm also in Ontario, right? And I'm not going to get something that may or may not kill me or not kill me. My son lost his mom to cancer 5 years ago. I am not taking that chance on a whim that it may or may not kill me. You know, yes, I may catch COVID. I might die from COVID, may not. Again, it's a 50-50, no matter if you get the vaccine or if you don't. You know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. It's okay to agree to disagree. And that's what everybody's forgetting. How about we close our mouth, listen to, in our ears, and see what everybody has to say? But no one wants to do that. Everybody wants to overtalk everybody so they could get their point of view across. And if you don't like it, then we come into the cancel culture. Oh, you don't like what I'm saying? You don't like what I'm doing? Guess what? I'm going to cancel you because I don't like what you're saying. When did we stop being human beings and start caring about each other?
I agree, and I'm sorry for your loss.
You know, like that's not a chance I'm willing to take a gamble on my life especially when I have a child with autism, and it's hard enough as is. Like, and he wants the vaccine, and then he doesn't want the vaccine. And I said, listen, I will support you whatever decision you want, but before we go and get the vaccine, let's go talk to our doctor and see what the doctor says. And trying to get a pediatrician now is next to impossible. It's taken me 2 years to get a pediatrician for my 11-year-old son. 2 years.
That's absolutely horrible.
Okay. I also, my son is autistic. Okay. Because of Ford, he cut the Autism Foundation in half. So I can't get funding. So our government is not here. Our government is only here to take our money and use it the way they want to use it. They don't give two damns about us. And,
You
and it's
won't.
go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, you won't get any disagreement from me on the government does not have any of our best interests in mind. They never have. They are a very self-serving entity, and it's been that way for a long time, long before COVID. Um, just, I also am not vaccinated. I've been subject to all the mandates, restrictions, and loss of everything else this entire time. And I know some of what you're going through. I don't have kids, so I don't know anything on that part. But it's
Yeah.
been tough. It's not been easy. I've had friends tell me to my face that if I don't care about people, I should go die. I should get sick and die. I've been called a plague rat. I've been told to go F myself to my face because I tried to sit down at a table with 6 people I knew.
I've been
I've
told at work that all vaccinated, unvaccinated people should be arrested and
uh-huh.
thrown on a lion on an island and fucking die.
Yep. Yeah, I've been told similar things. I uh, I own my own business, and I've lost clients because when they ask if I'm vaccinated, I tell them the truth, and they will not have me in their houses. I got the tests. I paid for them. I've paid thousands of dollars over the last 5 months for tests so that I could make sure that everybody around me was safe. If
Mm-hmm.
that was to make them feel better. And even some people that wasn't good enough because even though I was getting tested every 3 days, I was still unvaccinated, which meant I denied science, which meant I was against everybody else. And it had absolutely nothing to do with whether or not I believe in a vaccine or not. None of the reason that I'm unvaccinated has to do with the fact that it's a vaccine or it's a new one or anything like that. Um, I have a severe phobia where I become violent when given even confrontation with the needle. I've had SWAT member, like a SWAT team, have to extract me from a hospital before. I've had the RCMP called on me several times at the hospital, and I've had to put off surgery that I should have got 10 years ago because if they screw up the surgery, I'd be on injections for the rest of my life and I would sooner die than get an injection. And it doesn't matter what's in it. I was in an accident earlier this year and I refused morphine in the ambulance on the way to the hospital to kill the pain because the thought of getting a needle was worse than the fact that I had just had an ATV and myself tumble down a hill together and bust up a bunch of my body. I just cannot get needles. Does not matter what's in them. And a lot of people don't understand that. And because of that, I have become an outcast of society by the people that I thought would have always had my back, even in my darkest hour.
You don't need enemies these days because your own friends do it to you. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about like your worst enemies are your best friends now because the government has turned everybody against each other, and this is what people don't see. this is what they want. They want to turn people against each other. They want people fighting and having everything so separate because this is how they gain control, you know. And yeah, there is a conspiracy on both sides, and everybody just needs to wake up and stand together. If we
Yeah.
stand together, we won't lose the control in Canada, right? But no one wants to stand together because everybody's agenda is more important, right? And it's not the government that actually runs this country. It's the big rich people because they hand the money down to Justin Trudeau and all these people saying, listen, this is what I need from you. You're my puppet. So
Mhm.
they have people to answer to, and that's the rich people. It's the rich people in this world that are causing the problems these days.
So guys, I'm gonna be going for about 10 more minutes. So I'm just gonna offer the I'm just gonna throw this out there. If anybody in the chat here disagrees with what we're talking about, because we all seem to be pretty much on the same page here, nobody's like too far off on either side. If you disagree, if you have something to say, pop in the chat. Someone already wanted to come in, so we'll get somebody else. Oh, Swiftness, I know that you agree. So if anybody else disagrees, you know what, Swift, I feel bad, but like, because you've talked the last couple of days, I just want to get a couple different voices. If nobody else wants to pop in, I'll definitely bring you in. I just want to give the opportunities to some people that haven't been able to speak.
I definitely would
Yeah.
love to talk to someone who's got a different opinion because
Same.
maybe there's something I'm not seeing or there's something I didn't think of, and you know, because everybody's like, well, check the science, check the facts. You can't even check that anymore because it's so the narrative and it is so out to left field. You don't know what to believe anymore. So
Hmm.
when you
Oh.
so if someone's in here that has a different opinion than me, then please come in. I'd love to have a debate or a talk. I mean, a talk, a
Mhm.
decent conversation.
Absolutely.
No
Yeah.
yelling,
Same
no
here.
name calling, no swearing, other than the odd fuck here and there. But come and have a decent conversation. Be a human being for once and tell me how you feel. And let me tell you how I feel. And let's try to figure out how we can work together so we both feel safe.
I like the way you think. I would love for someone with a differing opinion to take that third spot above our two images, because the best discourse to solve a problem is to talk about it. And me and you can talk all day, I'm sure, because we're very much aligned, not fully agreeing with each other, but we're very close aligned because we do agree on a lot of things. But if anybody in the chat is completely on the other side of what we're saying, I would love to hear their point of view, because we don't find the common ground. We don't find a resolve to anything if we don't start by talking first. Something
Yeah,
that our
it's
prime minister should have done 3 weeks ago.
Someone's asking in the comments. No, people here disagree that the Emergency Act should have been passed.
and you know what? Everybody has a right to disagree to agree, right? And I'm okay with that. I don't see eye with you, then that's fine. Like it's no problem. But again, I don't see how he has the right to do it. He should not have the right to go into and freeze people's bank account. Okay, just because I choose to put my money where I believe doesn't give him the right to say no. What you believe is wrong. And if that's the case, then don't believe in any church, don't believe in any politician, because unless you follow what I decide you follow, then it just doesn't make any sense. You can't go in and destroy people's lives because they made the decision to support a cause that they agree with. Doesn't make them a terrorist. Doesn't make them a racist. You know, and this being racist and terrorist and all this stuff has been thrown out of proportion because every time you're on TikTok now, everything's racist. Everybody's
Yeah.
offended. Everybody's canceling everybody. Like, when did we grow so soft? Like,
It was about 9 years ago, thereabouts, that we started down this road.
mm,
And
I grew, I was born in '78. I grew up with freaking rulers in the schools, and it was okay to hit the kids or the belt.
yep,
And I grew up like you pissed your parents off, you got to whoop it. And
Yep.
You learn from it. And I think
Yeah.
some kids really need that these days.
Yeah, I didn't turn out so bad. I got the strap. I got the wooden spoon. I got the
Dude,
spankings.
my mom cold cocked me and knocked me out. Okay?
Yeah.
Because back then it was okay to take your kids to the friggin' bar.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that the punishment that we used to have was more effective. Um, some parents did take it over a line to an
But again, you're
unacceptable
gonna
abuse stage, but
we always had those kind of people. There always
yeah,
will be those people
but
that
these
don't
these
know.
laws, these current laws don't stop those types of
Yeah.
people. Abuse is
Miss
always going to
Patriot joined.
happen.
Miss
Hi, Miss
Patriot's joined
Patriot. How
us.
Hey,
are
Miss
you?
Patriot.
Well, as a wife of a veteran, I'll tell you exactly what this feels like. It's like harmful. You know, I've watched my husband, who's a veteran, um, traumatized what's gone on. He's he's beyond words at this point. He can't even. It's hurtful.
I know. And
He's
you know
served his
what?
country.
Yeah.
You're a
I
little
think
quiet, Miss
he's
Patriot, by the way. You're just a little quiet if you're able to speak up or come a little bit closer to the mic.
Sorry, I just, like my husband served his country for 14 years. This is horrifying to him to see what's going on Ottawa. He's
Which part? The government or the protest?
he's protest.
Okay.
Okay,
He's
so you're
watched the veterans that are down there being taken to their knees.
yeah.
He's traumatized. I've never seen my husband. He served for 14 years in the Canadian Armed Forces. He's Army. He's artillery. He went to Bosnia. Like this is he's so messed up right now from
This is
everything.
not what he went to war to fight for, is to
No,
have what
he
we
did
have
not.
now. This is not
So
what
yeah.
he signed up for.
As the chat says, thank him for his service on behalf of the
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Open Debate and the chat.
So
I
You know,
appreciate what your husband has done for us, and I will always appreciate what your husband does. No matter what government is in place, our veterans are our safe keepers, and we'll always have my respect. I have a grandfather. All my grandparents were in the war, so I understand and I respect and I love the fact that he served and he did so much for us, and I appreciate him. I praise the Lord for him to get over this long, devastated event, because I know it can't be easy because he went over there and fought so hard to come back to not to see it all over here in his own country. So I do appreciate his service, and I thank you guys very much.
he's so I'll tell you right now, like he's got a service dog. He's just it. He released in 2011. Um, he took in 20 till 2018 to get any kind of service and help from Veterans Affairs, and now he's finally got his service dog about what June.
okay.
He's so
I
he
think
can't
every
even.
soldier, when they come back, should have a service dog, and it should be provided by the government.
Well, but the thing is, so he can't even. So even if he wanted to come to Ottawa and be part of this, he would actually have to give up his service dog because the um the
Hmm.
company that we go through actually would not um be okay with him going through and coming to Ottawa. So he would actually have to give up his service dog to come to Ottawa,
Yeah.
because so certain companies that service dogs go through have certain restrictions, and so he would not be able to come out there. And he's had a hard time with that. He's really wanted to come to Ottawa. to be with his brothers, to be alongside, and it's been so hard for him. And I've had to really censor what he gets, as far as what information he gets, as far as what's happening with his brothers over there in Ottawa, because he's not doing well, and
Okay,
this has really been hard.
I'm
And
gonna.
I the fact that the government's not even acknowledging what they've done to the veterans, and the fact that the police are not acknowledging what's going on with the veterans right now and what they've done.
Can I ask you a question, Miss Patriot?
Yeah.
A few years back, when that vet when that veteran up in Edmonton asked the Prime Minister what help he would give to the veterans, and the Prime Minister answered that they're asking for more than we can afford to give. And then he sees the government giving hundreds of millions and billions to foreign countries, to foreign governments, and to all these other causes that seem very trivial compared to our veterans. Um, how does that affect our actual veterans? How does that make them feel? If you don't mind answering, if you don't want to answer that, I can.
So I'll tell you right now. So as a veteran who has served this country, who has PTSD, my husband gets 100%. So within that 100%, every claim that he has, so his back claim, his PTSD claim, his every claim is within 100%. So if he goes beyond the 100% that the government has allowed, then he's not getting any more of his claims. So right now, he just got 50 what 10% for his feet. He got 62% for his PTSD. Um, so within the 100% that every veteran gets, beyond that, they get no more. And to me, that's just so disrespectful.
It is. Our
Yeah.
veterans deserve so much more, and
They
that's what really
are.
makes me mad. Is because with this GoFundMe, they were setting it up for a veterans fund, and the fact that Justin Trudeau froze it because he knew any money that was left over after all this was going to go to the veterans, and he didn't want to look bad
Not only did it
because
go
he
to the
wouldn't give any
veterans,
more
it
money to
also
the
went
veterans.
to the. So not only did that money go to the veterans, it also went to the First Nations to make sure that they had water.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the veterans were. So I'll tell you right now, the veterans actually made sure that not only did it go to the them and the wounded warriors and whatever other groups they went to, but I also made sure that it went to the clean water and everything else, because there's a lot of veterans that are First Nations, and I don't think that everyone realizes how much of the community and the veterans are actually First Nations. My husband is Métis. He served his country. He did not know he was Métis when he went in, but he has now since learned that he is Métis. That's the problem, is that a lot of these groups that don't know that a lot of that money was going to First Nations groups to make sure that they got clean water. I mean, yes, there's been some controversy because of the white supremacist groups that this was all attached to. My husband's never supported any of that, which has been, he's just watching him tonight. What with what happened with this vote tonight, I watched my husband collapse in our kitchen floor at the fact that he served a country that is no longer free.
Right.
It's
This broke him.
disgusting what happened today.
It broke him.
As it should. I don't mean this disrespectfully. As it should. It should break every Canadian that we have gotten to this point. And
And I've seen so many I'm sorry to interrupt. I've seen so many videos saying that said it should make you feel like what happened in 9/11. And to be honest, it did. It did. My heart has been broken. I'm born and raised Canadian. I was born here. I was born in Surrey, BC. I was born here. I was raised here. Um, I'm heartbroken at how my country has turned out, and I really don't know where we go from here. I like, as a wife of a veteran, as a born Canadian, how do you go from here? Like, I'm heartbroken. I
well,
voted. I actually voted this year because I wanted to make a difference because I haven't voted in many years, but I'm
hmm
broken. I'm triple vaxxed. I've gotten my vaccines.
hmm
Here, our government speaks so farly against us. It's heartbreaking.
well, when did our government stop working for us and we start working for it? Because
A long
we're
time ago.
supposed, yeah, we're supposed to be the ones telling them what to do, and it hasn't been that way in a while, for 2 years for sure, but I think it's been a lot longer than that, that we elect these politicians and then we're stuck with them for 4 years. There's no recourse. There's nothing we can do, according to them, to get rid of them if they don't do the job we hired them to do. And, they've spent, like, what are we in, the third or fourth, fifth month of Trudeau's current 4-year term? He can do whatever he wants, because in 2-3 years, most people will have forgotten, and those that didn't, he'll just throw a ton of money at them like they do it before every election, and hope that those people that got the money will vote for him. I mean, I live in Alberta currently. I've been in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC my entire life. And this last election and the one previous, the Justin Trudeau showed up into the province for less than 12 minutes to speak during
Mhm.
the entire election campaign. Jagmeet Singh showed up for 1 hour during the entire campaign, and that's province wide. This isn't in certain locations, province wide. The Aaron O'Toole didn't even bother, nor did the Green Party. Maxime Bernier, of all the candidates, showed up in our province for a couple of days. We we just get ignored because we don't have a say federally as to what goes on in our country. Our vote really doesn't matter. And the politicians know that. They don't stop here. They don't come and visit us. They don't visit Saskatchewan. They
But
do
that's
visit Manitoba, but they jump over the prairies. They go straight to Vancouver, back to Ottawa, and they do it back and forth the entire election, and they never stop in and ask what anybody in the prairies wants, because our vote doesn't matter. Our vote doesn't count.
no,
Uh,
that's where I disagree, my friend. Our votes do count. Our votes really do count, and it's the mindset of people thinking our votes don't count is what kills us, because they don't vote or they throw their vote, and which really hurts us in the long end. Every vote counts. And the way it's been explained to me, and I'm going to say this is the way I was taught,
mhm.
you have to pick the least liar, because no matter what, they all lie and say what they got to say to get in.
Yeah.
Right? They all promise everything underneath the
Mhm.
win. You're never going to get rid of the corruptness in the government. It's always going to be there unless you wipe the government completely out and cap them and say, okay, you're only going to make $100,000. I guarantee you wouldn't see many politicians in the game to make money because they wouldn't make money. But again, it has
Shouldn't
to
be
come to
about
everybody's
making
got to
money.
vote,
Should be
and
about
have to
public
come.
service.
What's that?
It shouldn't be about making money. It should be about public service.
but it's been turned into about making money. It's about
Yeah,
making their wallets fatter, and it's never gotten that far, but we have. And as Canadians, that's our fault for letting it go that far. Um, it all
I'll
falls
just say
on
this.
us. It all
what?
falls on us by letting them get too far. Like I said, we need to cap them. We need to
Yeah,
say, listen, you are not allowed to own any businesses while you're in the government. If you work for us, you're not allowed to own any businesses. You need to get them away so people cannot give other people contracts. Like our Doug Ford, he owns a sticker company. Well, that sticker company that he owns got all the city contracts for Toronto.
yep,
That should never have happened. But this is how they make their money, is because they
yeah.
give people contracts that indirectly pays for them in the
Yeah.
future.
But you said that as far as my comment about my vote not counting, 2 elections in the last 4, after I got back from voting at the polls, the election had been called.
Yeah.
My ballot was sitting in a box down at the polling station, hadn't even been counted yet, and the election had been called. Both
And that's where the
minority,
corruption
both
is.
both of those were minority governments. My vote didn't count in forming the government one bit. It didn't even matter. I do
No, and
vote every single time,
but
but
I'm not disagreeing with you. Yes, I am disagreeing. Like the people who are just throwing their votes, don't throw them.
no, don't.
Right? People are just throwing their votes. Like I'm not gonna lie. Uh, I voted for PPC.
Same.
Right? And people saying that was throwing my vote. No, no, he was the least amount of bullshit that he was speaking. They're all crooked. They're all the same. They're all in it for their own agenda.
Yeah.
Right? You just gotta find the one and siphon through their friggin' bullshit because that's exactly what it is. It's politicians are bullshitters. That's what they get paid to do. They
Yep.
feed you bullshit to make you happy, so they get into the office and then they do a complete 360 and fuck us all over. Every single one are the same.
Yep.
My biggest one, I
That's
hope that
something
I'm going to
I've
be
learned.
wrong about, is Pierre. I hope Pierre gets in. I hope he doesn't fucking disappoint me. But I agree with where Pierre stands for, and I'm hoping to God Pierre actually gets in and takes his Joker down and takes him out.
I'm sorry to
So,
shatter your dreams. I'm gonna let you speak in just a second, Miss Patriot. I hate to shatter your dreams with Pierre, but like people say, our memories are short. Also, not everybody pays attention to things because why would we if you weren't in the zone at the time? But Pierre's response to the native pipeline blockade was that they should have brought the military in day one. So
Mhm.
I do not look at him as somebody who would actually be on the side of, like, you know, there are different situations, but I do not believe the military should have been brought in day one to deal with that, right? Like that also has to do with hitting the pockets of the government and hitting the bank
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
how much it affects them, right? But what's the less of two evils? It's it's interesting.
But
There's one
again,
guy
here's
in
the
here. There's
mighty
one guy in
mighty
the thing.
mouse. We're, we're,
I just want to say this rabbit hole gauntlet or rabbit hole whatever. Let us know in the chat if you are for or against. We're gonna go for. I know I said this already, but we're gonna go until 12:30, so another 15 minutes. Somebody else, if they want to pop in, if they have a different point of view, let us know in the chat before, and then one of these guys, I'm sure, will offer to leave because there's only 3 spots, but it'll be up to them.
But I just want to say something
Oh
before
yeah,
I
okay,
leave.
go on. Yeah, no problem. Floor is yours.
So my father, who died 2 years ago, said when Justin Trudeau came in, he said, "Melissa, this is the end of the world," and I never believed him. And I was like, "Dad, you don't know what you're talking about." I thought he was. It's really hard for me. When Pierre Trudeau came in, he didn't like it. He was like, "Here we go. The doors are gonna open. Things are gonna get messed up." And then as I got older, I started to listen to him more and more and more. And when Justin came in, my dad said, "Watch yourself. Watch everyone. Watch what's gonna happen."
Mm-hmm.
And when he died, I never thought that I would sit there and look up and go, "You were right." My dad right now is rolling over in his grave and going, "My country that I brought my children." My dad was a British RAF. He served his country in the British military. And he came here. He brought his children here because he wanted a better life for them. He was under and served in his country in the British military. He also was a child of what happened and was in air raid shelters for 1936 until he was old enough to remember. This to me, and listening to all his stories that he used to tell me and listening to the harm that he used to go through, my father was not stupid. And so when he saw Justin Trudeau come into um, his government, he, I feel almost like my father gave up. He was just like, you know what? What's the point? Because Justin Trudeau is the end of us as Canadians. And I'm sorry to say it.
You
My
know what?
dad,
I feel bad for our kids. Our kids are going to be the ones who are going to suffer from this for a very long time.
I have two
Our
boys
kids are
who
going to end up paying for all of our mistakes.
Wow,
I have
we
two
all look.
sons.
Sorry, I was just gonna say we all look fairly young. I'm only 40. We're gonna pay for it too.
I'm 42 and I have two sons. They're 20 and 21. And I have one that has autism. I have one that has kidney failure. And I'm worried because um, they can't get the vaccines because of the fact that they have mental health and one has kidney failure. What
No.
does that mean for them?
Yeah. And you know what? That's the other thing is the mental health that's going on in Canada is at an all-time high, and none of the governments care. They don't care how many 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds are trying to commit suicide. Not only kids, adults. Alcoholism has gone up. Drug use has gone up. Everything has gone up. And all they care
Mm-hmm.
about is how to make more money, how to put more restrictions in. Why don't you
Yeah.
look at the real facts and look at mental health and drug use and alcohol? Because those are the real fucking pandemics right now, not this fucking Omicron and stuff. Mental health is a huge pandemic right now, and it needs to be dealt with because people are going to start snapping and killing other people, and it's all because what the government is doing to us.
Yeah, my neighbor lost her granddaughter last summer, and it was the isolation that got to her. She couldn't handle it. She was in her mid-teens, and she didn't make it through all this. It got to her. She wasn't doing so good before, but she was coming out of it. COVID hit, and she spiraled down. Nobody noticed. Everyone was so preoccupied with everything else going on. Her friends didn't have the ability to notice because she was isolated from them, and yeah, it didn't end
Okay,
well for her.
The
hold on.
sad thing is, though, and gentlemen, is that a lot of veterans are so they isolate before. Um, so a lot of veterans will isolate because that's what they're used to. And so when we isolate, like my husband isolated before COVID hit, so because that was his way of protecting himself, and a lot of veterans do it. They isolate themselves because it's a safe way to keep away from public. Um, but the problem is with that is that when we come out and we have to deal with a lot of like my husband goes out grocery shopping or he'll go out and do things because my health is compromised. So he'll go out and he'll do grocery shopping and he'll do things, but he, even with a dog, is being attacked in a grocery store. It's,
Yeah.
you know,
I just want I just want to reply to this one comment I've seen here. Miss Kate Five. It says, "Oh my God, try working in the protests are harassing you." Well, now you got to. Now you're getting a taste of what unvaccinated people have had to go through. People harassing us because we're not vaccinated. Our
Uh,
jobs are being threatened.
nobody
Yeah.
should be
I
harassing
think that
anybody.
people that, so
No one should be harassed. It's not fair. It's not right. And we're humans. Treat each other like humans. Treat people the way you want
Okay,
to be
but
treated.
he also doesn't
Mr.
know and doesn't understand what it's like to be a veteran that goes through a store and is harassed
Yeah.
and made to feel like he's non like. So my husband will go grocery shopping and he's disrespected on a regular basis. His
Yeah.
dog, even though he's got a service vest on, is still being disrespected by, oh, I know I shouldn't touch your dog, but I'm just gonna still touch your dog because you know what? I just feel like I should. You know what? Like the veterans are being disrespected too. Like
Um,
I get what the people in Ontario have gone through and the Ottawa have gone through with the fact that you know what? They feel like they've been disrespected. I get that. I understand that they feel like, but you know what? Think about what a veteran goes through on a daily basis when they go through a grocery store and they feel like, you know what? I'm gonna touch your dog regardless of the fact, or I'm gonna, push your buttons until you, like. My husband has gone through so much. We live on Vancouver Island. We've gone through. So we live in Nanaimo currently, but we've gone through 3 different communities trying to adapt for his mental health because every time we've gone through communities, my husband's had to deal with people not understanding his mental health and pushing his buttons. And, he'll calculate in his head, but people just don't get him. They don't understand his mental health and pushing a veteran with PTSD, pushing anyone with a mental health illness, not just him, but me. I have mental health. And he goes into places to protect me because he knows I can't be, I'm not as, he can be pushed without count, but it affects him when he gets home. And he knows that when I'm out in public with my mental health, it affects me out in public. I have borderline personality, so my husband tries to protect me on a daily basis. But he, as a veteran who served his country, has to push himself with his dog to come through that because he knows that he can't. Like, he's still serving people that can't serve themselves. His oath never ended. And I think that that's what people need to understand. His oath never ended as a veteran. He still serves his oath and he still pushes beyond what he should. And I've watched him do it. He's still trying to take care of kids with mental disabilities, and it horrifies me at the disrespect my husband has to deal with.
I'm sorry that he has to go through that.
Yeah.
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 Nobody deserves to be harassed or felt as though they're not safe, and well, that goes for everybody.
Doesn't
Like
feel
goes for
safe
your
in his
husband. Yeah.
community right now.
Well, and that's what I was trying to say to Mr. Zeki there is that saying that it's good that the people in Ottawa were feeling what we've been feeling for the last 2 years. I don't think that's good. I don't want people to be treated the way I've been treated. I
No,
was
no, 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 no. I
uh,
didn't say what they were doing in Ottawa. No, no. What I'm saying with the border, it was with the border of the government feeling the pinch that we've been feeling
No,
oh
no,
with.
no. He was saying just a second ago with the
yeah.
lady in the comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where she was saying they've been harassed by the protesters,
Oh,
and you. Well, they're feeling what we felt for 2 years. I
right.
don't want.
This is why I just want to like point out the issue because I've talked about this literally in one of my last videos. That's the same argument that people keep claiming to all of these protesters that, well, what about when the native protesters get shut down and look at all the force that's happened to them?
Yeah.
It's not right for it to happen to anybody, and it's clear.
No.
It's like that doesn't make it right, and I know that we're all in the same realm where it's like it doesn't make it right, and yeah, sure, yeah, they got a taste of what the corrupt politicians can do when they have complete control over the police force and the government, but it's like, yeah, we already knew that. Like everybody knows that. Nobody's fighting for that. I don't think.
Right. And it's just I kind of feel like we're back in school because it's like, well, now you know how I feel, and you know, oh no, now you know how I feel. Like,
Yeah.
we're back in freaking high school all over again. You did this, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to
Yeah.
do this because you did that, and like we all need to grow up. We all like
Yeah.
we're in our 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s, and we're
Yeah.
acting like a bunch of freaking kids.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going around. That's for sure.
You know,
But
sticks and stones will break my bones, you know, but names will never hurt me, right?
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what is it? I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you
Yeah.
say bounces off to me and
Sticks
sticks to
onto
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, none of us can control what anyone else does.
No,
What we can control is what we do. And if somebody's gonna treat me like garbage, I'm not gonna treat them in kind. I'm going to be kind, but I'm
yeah,
not gonna treat them in kind. Because if I treat them this way they treat me, then the cycle just perpetuates. And if we're gonna break the cycle, and this goes for anybody on any issue, for anything, you don't respond to somebody being rude and aggressive to you by being the same way to them.
kill him with
It's not
kindness.
going to solve anything. You can walk away, you can try to reason with them, you can try to talk calmly. But I get it when I'm talking with people online in other forums, they start throwing insults and names and everything else. And one point of pride for me is I have never insulted somebody else while having a discussion with them because it will solve nothing but to enrage them and perpetuate the insult cycle.
And I've been
I'm
on
just gonna
other
say
lives
one thing
too.
is I don't care what your ethnic background is, I don't care what your skin color is, I don't care who you are, where you're from. I love you all. We're all brothers and sisters somewhere down the
We're a
line.
human race.
And I respect everybody's opinion. And I love you all. And we're all gonna get through this. It's going to take a long fucking time to recover, but we all just need to stay strong and support each other, no matter what your beliefs and differences are. So on that end, I love you all. Stay safe, and we keep fighting.
Have a good
And
And
I
night.
think
Thank you
we're
for
just
joining
all
us,
a
and thank
human
you for your
race and we
wise
bleed the
words.
same color.
yeah,
Yeah,
We bleed
yeah.
all the same color. And that's the problem is I think people forget we all bleed the same color. We've come from the same backgrounds and all different backgrounds like some of us have come from the foster care system. Some of us have come from all different backgrounds but yet in the same thing, we all come from the same blood and backgrounds. And you know what? I love everybody and it's been really hard for me to watch my country, the people I love, um, down in Ottawa, and I haven't been able to get down there. My husband has thought about taking the drive and going down there and just being part of something, but his mental health won't let him do it. And he's just like, I can't do it. And, but it's been, you know,
can I respond
watch,
to one of the comments that I saw scroll by?
yes,
Yep.
definitely.
So I saw Mighty Mouse say that love won't fix the government,
No,
and
it
she's
won't.
right. Love won't fix the government. What love will fix is the divide between everybody right now. And
It
once
is.
we've fixed our divide, then we can fix our government. we're never going to fix the government while we stay fractured. But if we can get over our differences, like everyone has said, and actually start to work together for the common good of our country, we can fix our government because together we are strong.
And that's the problem is, so I've gone into a lot of lives where I've been attacked for that kind of thought is that, well, no, we're not going to be able to do it. And, the fact that my husband's a veteran and, he fought for things, I've been attacked on a lot of lives for feeling that way is just like, you know what, it's about the human race. It's not about, and the fact that we all bleed red. It's not, but I've been attacked in a lot of lives in the last like 2 weeks for feeling that way. It's like, it's not about just one person. It's about the fact that it's a human race. We all bleed the same color. And I've said that I will never change my thoughts on it. But a lot of people are so divided, and it's a lot of to do with the media. It's a lot to do with the divide in the country, and it's so sad. It's a lot to do with a lot of that's going on TikTok because there's a lot of divide on TikTok too.
Yeah.
And it's so
Yeah.
hard to see. I go on TikTok in the morning and I watch all the lives and I watch everything that's happened overnight. I've watched everything and it's so hard to watch as a Canadian that's born and raised. Um, to and my husband's first words are, so what's going on in the world? He won't even look at the news. He goes to me and goes, honey, what's going on? And
Right.
I don't
Because
even
that's where
want to.
people are getting their news from these days. Pretty much. You get
Well,
your news
and
from
that's the thing, though.
social media and from other people and everything like that.
But
But
I don't.
I am gonna wrap up the show.
Yep.
I appreciate you guys coming out, and I appreciate both of your voices and everything that you had to say. Make sure that you come out again because you can always pop back into the chat,
Well,
and we do this every night. So I mean, you got all the power to you to come back out and speak about what you're thinking. We always talk about different things, so yeah, it'd be nice to have
Thank
you
you
guys
for
come back
having
out.
an
well,
open mind
thank
and
you for
respecting.
thank you for letting me speak, and I have definitely followed you so that I will get notified because I would love to join again. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you very much for coming out.
You guys all have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
All right, that was good. We had a lot of good conversations. Not everybody completely agreed, but we always have a good conversation, and that's what it's about. It's not about one perspective. It's not about living in an echo chamber. We're trying to get perspectives from everybody around. Thank you guys for the gifts. That means a lot. I appreciate that, and you don't have to follow. You don't have to put gifts or anything. I do follow the people that it shows me a list of people that have watched and people that give gifts. So I just follow the people that have stuck around in the stream and stuff like that. But yeah, we stream every night at 9, and you can request to join by hitting the co-host button down below. We always welcome different opinions. If we have individuals here speaking about something and you disagree, make sure that you pop in. We want to hear your voice. Everybody tries to be respectful, and if they are getting out of line, I try to calm things down. So far, we haven't had any debates that have turned into crazy rambles that people go on at each other and just there's no fighting going on here. We're trying to have good conversations about what Canadians think, how they feel, their unfiltered human opinions. That's literally what we're about here. So if you are into that sort of thing, you like debate, you like talking about what's going on, make sure you pop in every night at 9, if not before, maybe a little later. Who knows? I'm not very consistent. Maybe I will be, but every single day. So I am consistent that way. But yeah, guys, it's been fun. We've been trying to build the community up, so make sure that you follow along to get the notifications and share this sort of stream and share the content that I make to your friends that may not agree so that they can come in and share their opinion, because that's what we want. People that disagree respectively coming together for conversations. With that being said, my name's Elder. Be your own hero, kids. Hello. Check, check. Can you see me? Can you see me? Hello. Anyways, if anybody's out there, if you're watching, thank you for joining the stream tonight. Thank you for being here and in the chat. I see that there was a super chat from the Geth, and he said the biggest reason to distrust is the apparent desire to eliminate any possible control a group. Any possible control group. 100% inoculation rate would eliminate that. I think we were talking about individuals who were unvaccinated and have decided to remain that way, even though there are individuals who have gotten it. And it's just, how do they eliminate people being able to research for themselves? Potentially through eliminating the control group. But yeah, this was being streamed on TikTok. You can pop over there. I stream live at 9 p.m. every night over there, and we get people to come in and out of the chat. Lots of good conversations, goes on for hours. And yeah, guys, come on out, check it out. And I restream the stuff onto other platforms. So if you're hearing this somewhere else, if you want to join the conversation, come in live on TikTok at 9 p.m. daily. With that being said, my name's Elder. This has been the Open Debate.